What a weekend of college football we just had. Welcome into the PFF College Football Show. Max Chadwick alongside Dalton. Wasserman here to break down a chaotic Week 8 of college football. Release the PFF grades for all of these games here on this desk, and also go over the stats that told the story in all of these games. And also at the very end of the show, go over the biggest standouts of the week and release the brand new PFF Top 25, which looks much, much different than last week's Top 25. But Dalton, once again, we had 5 ranked games this week and a bunch of other teams that lost to unranked teams as well. Just a chaotic weekend of college football.
No, for sure. College football gets turned upside down every week. And honestly, aside from my Twitter account getting hacked, it was an outstanding weekend. So, we had upsets, we had overtime games, we had season-defining plays. I think this weekend gave you everything college football has to offer. And honestly, it just, again, once again, we come in here on a Sunday morning and everything we thought we knew, we didn't know. I mean, everything's just been turned upside down. And I think you start to look at especially some of these conference races, especially you look at, to me, in the ACC and the Big 12, I don't know what to make of them right now. And that's really the fun of it all, is the chaos. And it's starting to feel like the same chaos that we got last year amidst this 12-team playoff race.
Well, I got hacked. My Twitter got hacked last year. You got hacked this year.
It's just tradition.
It's tradition now. Eli's next year.
He's next. Okay, we're going to get Eli in 2026. That seems fair. Yeah. Okay, because he's really been bragging about he's the one of the three of us that hasn't yet. But now it feels like it would be. Now it feels like it would be deserved. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you click on a link? Like, what'd you do?
I was sitting around tweeting about every 3:30 game in existence, and all of a sudden I got logged out, and that was it.
Well, if you get a random DM from Dalton right now, it is not Dalton. He unfortunately got hacked. So if he's like asking you for money in the DMs, actually that might have been you before that. Actually,
yeah, maybe.
For, missing the parlay. Can you help me out a little bit? Yeah.
If it's anything, if it's anything about Bitcoin, it's not me. Actual cash, that might track. Actually. Okay, we'll see where that goes.
We got a lot to get to today. Obviously, let's actually start, Dalton. Before we start, actually, let's mention to people that you can get PFF Plus right now for 25% off if you use the promo code PFFCFB25. So if you want to see for yourself all the grades for every single player in Week 8 of college football and every single game, not just the games we're talking about today, you can get that with a PFF Plus subscription right now at subscribe.pff.com. Use the promo code PFFCFB25. And you get access to our best betting tools and the best fantasy football tools on the market as well to help you put even more money into your pocket right now. So again, PFF CFB25. We have to buy Dalton's Twitter back. Yeah, we're attempting to make a bid to Elon Musk right now as we speak.
See that? I wonder. I can't imagine they would ask that much for it.
I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty worthless.
Yeah, exactly. It's just one of those. It's just one of those. I don't have that many followers yet. We were getting there. We were working on it, man. We were starting to really stack them up. But
so was I last year, and then I had to get my new one hacked.
Maybe just a few $20 bills.
I took over the old PFF NFL show Twitter, so you just got to take over some old PFF account that doesn't exist anymore.
That's like the cheater's way of doing it. I'll take it.
Yeah. No, don't start from zero. I started this account that had a couple thousand followers, and then
why earn it when it can be given to you?
Exactly. Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
That's my life mantra right there. All right, let's get to the first game that wasn't even a part of yesterday's Wild Saturday. It was on Friday night, and that was Louisville taking down number 2 Miami 24-21, delivering the Hurricanes their first loss of the season. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Louisville Cardinals. Their highest grade player was cornerback Jabari Mack, 88.7. Wide receiver Chris Bell, who was outstanding in that game, 81.9. Caleb Perry, the linebacker, 75.8. Jordan Garrard, the D-tackle, 75.3. Antonio Watts, the safety, 74.1. And Miller Moss with a 61.1 grade. Now for Miami, D-tackle Ahmad Moten, 76.3. Offensive tackle Francis Mauangoa, 76.2. Edge rusher Ruben Bain Jr., not quite the 90s he's done every week, but still a 75.7 grade for him. Keontae Scott, the corner, 75.1. Malachi Toney, the star true freshman wide receiver, 74.7. And Carson Beck, with a career-high 4 interceptions, earned a 55.8 grade in the loss. Dalton, what was the stat that told the story for you?
So the formula was clear for Louisville. Number one, run the ball early and get ahead. They could not play from behind in this game, and even when they got ahead, there was going to be moments where Miller Moss had to make just enough plays from the pocket, quickly enough in the pocket to work around this pass rush. And the stat for me is Miller Moss, 2.32 second average time to throw. And I say it all the time, if your offensive line can't protect you, protect yourself. Louisville, against that vaunted defensive line, still only had a 34 pass blocking grade in this game. It was the mismatch we thought we were getting, but Jeff Brom and Miller Moss worked around it. Moss, 29 of his 37 passes were thrown in 2.5 seconds or less. 4.9 yard average depth of target. Get rid of it. Let your receivers work after the catch. 8 screens worked in there. Louisville had 191 yards after the catch, their most in a game since week 6 of last year, and only 2 completions of 10 or more air yards. This was just about Miller Moss playing point guard, being experienced, letting athletes win on the outside, especially Chris Bell. And obviously, again, Louisville, they needed to get ahead in this game, and they did a great job of doing that with their run game. Isaac Brown, aside from the fumble, was outstanding in this game, breaking tackles, making explosive runs happen. So I just think the Cardinals, starting with the run game early in the game to get ahead, and the power schemes that Jeff Brom was calling, and then Miller Moss, just get rid of the football. No matter what happened, just get rid of it. His one big mistake, the turnover-worthy play, rolling to his right, late in the play, right?
Yep.
We don't want Miller Moss breaking the pocket, trying to do all that against this Miami defensive line. But in the same way that I've seen teams beat the Cleveland Browns all year, in the same way that Joe Flacco beat the Pittsburgh Steelers the other day on Thursday night, that's how Miller Moss beat Miami. Get rid of the ball quickly, work around it, just make positive plays happen against a terrifying pass rush.
Yeah, and that's why I'll go into my most impressive right now. That is Jeff Brom, the head coach of Louisville, who obviously is kind of running that offense for Louisville right now. Just a perfect game plan against Miami. He knew exactly what he was dealing with that Miami defensive line, and he did not let them win the ball game like they've won so many other ball games this season. Like you said, a 34 pass blocking grade for Louisville. Miami was winning up front with their defensive line, but the difference was Miller Moss was getting rid of that football quickly. Miami had a 58% pass rush win rate in that game on Friday night, but only a 26% pressure rate because Miller Moss was getting rid of that football very quickly and letting his receivers like Chris Bell win after the catch. And dude, Jeff Brom, what he's doing at that program right now is incredible. He has 24 wins in the ACC since he was hired in 2023. That's most of any head coach in the conference right now. How about this stat, Dalton? He is now 4-1 against top 5 teams in his career as a head coach at Purdue and at Louisville. His only loss to a top 5 team ever was against Florida State in the ACC title game a couple years ago when Florida State was snubbed from the college football playoff. He has never lost a regular season game against a top 5 opponent in his career as a head coach. He brought Louisville to their first ACC title game in program history that year, and the Cardinals right now are a legit candidate to make their first college football playoff this year, too.
This got them back on track after the Virginia loss, and that was obviously a heartbreaker in overtime. But certainly you have Georgia Tech and Virginia and SMU right now in first place in the ACC. But especially 2 out of those 3 teams lose, you've got Louisville looming right there. If you're capable of beating this Miami team, you're capable of winning this conference. They are certainly in the races. A lot of teams in this race now, especially with Miami losing. You feel like both of those spots are open instead of just one coming out of this week. But Louisville is squarely in that mix, and the biggest reason is what Jeff Brom puts out on the field every week.
Walt in the chat saying perhaps Penn State should consider Jeff Brom. And I will say Jeff Brom is an alum of Louisville, so he might not be willing to leave Louisville. But if Penn State's looking for a coach that can win those top 5, top 10 games, Jeff Brom has proven, hey, he could do that. So
yeah, I've said that's just coaching right there. It's understanding that no matter what the talent difference is, we can make it up with play calling and an A+ game plan.
So before you get into your most impressive, Dalton, I want to talk about Carson Beck real quick because I think that was my stat that told the story here. It was Carson Beck with a career-high 4 interceptions in this game. He could have had 5 interceptions if not for 1 called back for roughing the passer. 4 turnover-worthy plays in this game. Miami only ran for 61 yards total. They relied on Carson Beck far too much as a passer on Friday night. 2 of his 4 interceptions happened in the final 8 minutes of this game. He really got greedy with his first 2 picks on a couple deep balls. And the third one, he threw off his back foot against pressure. And the final one was tipped on the drive where Miami could have tied the game, sent it into overtime. They started throwing the ball. Beck got tipped, and then it got picked off. A great catch by the defensive back, too, to have the game-sealing interception. Carson Beck this year, in my opinion, has been at his best when he's simply just doing his job, and he's letting other players from Miami win in the ball game, like their offensive line, like their defensive line, too. Carson Beck was relied on far too much to be the hero of this ball game. It kind of reminded me a lot of Georgia last year with Carson Beck, where they said, hey, go win these games for us, and he couldn't do it. At Georgia last year, I thought he was required to do way too much in this game on Friday night, and that's why he got really tried to play hero ball way too much, and it's why he threw a career-high 4 interceptions.
No, I agree. I mean, Louisville's pass rush, obviously an elite pass rush, and they're in a 3-way tie with Miami and Texas Tech for the highest pass rush grade in the country. Now, that got to him a little bit, especially in the second half, and I think it's about Miami playing from behind, really, for the first time this year, down 14-0, not a spot they had been in before. They had been ahead in all of their games, even a close game against Notre Dame. They were ahead early in that game. Notre Dame clawed back, and then they took the final lead with the game-winning field goal. But I think this was really the test for Miami. Can Carson Beck carry him through one of these moments like Cam Ward did so many times last year? It felt like there were stretches last year where every single week Cam Ward was bringing him back from a deficit. Sometimes you need your quarterback to carry you through just a bit of adversity. Carson couldn't do that in this game, and it was a furious comeback they mounted after the Isaac Brown fumble, but Beck wilted under the pressure a bit here, and that was a concern. I think especially with as much as he just can't improvise outside the pocket. That's really not there, and that's what Cam Ward did so well last year. That was the difference in so many games. Carson doesn't bring that. This Miami team, we're going to see in the next few weeks against some other solid teams in the ACC, if they fall behind again in one of these situations, can Carson play better than he did in these situations, right? And he even said, the last play was a miscommunication on the route. The ball was tipped at the line. That one actually wasn't one of the turnover-worthy plays, but there was 4 others, and that's what accounts for such a low grade. And look, this game came down to one quarterback, while not flashy, didn't make mistakes in Miller Moss, and the other made a lot of mistakes in a game where he fell behind. That really was a huge difference, and credit Louisville's secondary as well. I'd said to our producer, Quinn, huge Louisville Cardinal fan, that was the best game I'd seen their secondary play in a long time, because Louisville's secondary last year was a problem. It was actually an 86.7 team coverage grade, their second highest in the last 5 years. So they were outstanding on defense as well, and just, again, a great game plan all the way around. But Carson Beck struggled in this game, and he's going to have to answer questions on the field in the next few weeks also.
Miami could rely on Cam Ward last year to play hero ball and win games. They can't rely on Carson Beck to play hero ball and win games for them this year. He's at his best when he's simply just doing his job and letting his offensive line and defensive line win the ball games. And he's a really good complementary quarterback. I'm not sure he's one that you want to rely on to win you ball games like this one. Dalton, what was your most impressive part of Friday night's game?
Look, I think the best, you could argue Malachi Toney for Miami as well. He had an outstanding game, but the best player on the field, I thought offensively at least, was Chris Bell, the wide receiver for Louisville. Number 1 receiver type stuff he gave you in this game. 9 catches, 136 yards. Turned on the absolute jets on both touchdowns. Just game-breaking speed that he has, especially at his size. 92 of his 136 yards after the catch. Forced 4 missed tackles. Nobody else on Louisville's team had 40 yards receiving, and Chris Bell as the number 1 guy, it was just at any point it felt like any big moment where Miller Moss needed to make some sort of throw, obviously over that vaunted pass rush, Chris Bell was the guy, whether it was man or zone coverage. He was just a huge difference maker in this game, and this is the type of game where he's going to shoot up people's draft boards right here. If he wasn't up there already in the top 50, that combination of size and speed always plays, and there were moments where he took over this game.
Yeah, he was outstanding. He's a guy that a lot of people think could be a first-round pick in the NFL draft. Chris Bell, wide receiver, and he showed why in that game against Miami. So Louisville with a massive, massive victory. They will be in my top 25 later on in the show. Miami, my number 2 team in the country, the number 2 team in the country, suffers their first loss of the season, but still very much alive in the college football playoff race right now. All right, let's get to the biggest game on Saturday, the only top 10 matchup that we had, and that was number 9 Georgia taking down number 5 Ole Miss, 43-35. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Georgia Bulldogs. Their highest graded player was tight end Lawson Lucky, 90.1 grade for the tight end. Chauncey Bowens, the running back, 80.5. Another running back here, and Nate Frazier, 78.1. DeMello Jones, the corner, 77.8. Drew Bobo, the center, the son actually of the offensive coordinator, and Mike Bobo, who also had a great game, 77.5. And how about this? The highest graded player for Georgia was quarterback Gunnar Stockton with a 90.9 grade in the win for the Bulldogs. Go over to Ole Miss with their highest graded players in the loss. Offensive tackle Jaden Williams, 79.2. Linebacker Andrew Jones, 76. Safety Kapen Gushikin, 73. DeJon Stribling, wide receiver, 72.6. Jamarius Brown, the D tackle, 70. And Trinidad Chambliss with a 52.8 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
Yeah, just watching this game in general, I think it should be noted that neither team had a sack, and these are two teams that struggle to run the passer. And the more, we got into the second half of this game, and I was watching, I'm like, man, we're just playing 7-on-7 out here. I mean, both teams, you look at the two pass blocking grades for these teams, Georgia, 86.5, Ole Miss 86.2. These two quarterbacks had the time to operate and do whatever they wanted. They both made plays. Chambliss made plays with his legs. Stockton made plays all day. He was really the best player on the field in this game. The difference, though, was the performance in clean pockets. Gunnar Stockton, 86.9 passing grade in a clean pocket. Trinidad Chambliss, 46.7. There were just a lot of there was a handful of misses, especially late in the game in the fourth quarter. Unforced errors from Chambliss where the accuracy just wasn't quite there. And I thought also he struggled to throw into man coverage. Georgia, I think when they got into man coverage, they made him throw into those tighter windows, and he really had a hard time doing it, especially late in the game. So, look, both defenses staggered, especially because when you get no pass rush at all on an SEC quarterback, your life's going to get a lot harder as a defense. So we got the shootout that you're going to get when two teams pass protect at this level. Both offensive lines were really good, at least in the pass game. Georgia's even more so in the run game. Ole Miss, not as much. Kewan Lacey, only 31 rushing yards, so Ole Miss was a bit one-dimensional despite scoring 35 points. But just you got a shootout, and I think maybe even more of a shootout than we thought we would get. But these two teams really struggled to rush the passer, and for the most part, the two offenses took advantage.
Yeah, my stat is Georgia had 0 punts in this game, 0 turnovers in this game. Georgia scored on every single possession they had, except for the final one, where all they had to do was kneel down and run out the clock. So victory formation, that was the only drive of the game where Georgia did not score points. So an incredible job by Gunnar Stockton, Georgia's offensive line, Georgia's receivers, Georgia's running backs, Mike Bobo, the offensive coordinator, everyone on that Georgia offense for just masterfully picking apart this Ole Miss defense. An 88 offensive grade for Georgia in this game. Everything was clicking offensively. .335 EPA per play for Georgia on Saturday. It's their best against a Power 4 opponent since their Orange Bowl win over Florida State in 2023. And Florida State was on a lot of backups in that game too. So an incredible job by Georgia. 6.5 yards per play, 4.3 points per drive for Georgia as well. Just an incredible job, like I said, in scoring on every single possession that they had in this game. And 0 punts, 0 turnovers. Georgia masterfully worked down the field against Ole Miss.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think when you look at this Georgia offense, and I think, look, I tried to find somebody else for my most impressive. I really did, because you already had them written down. But I think even more so than this game, or than the Tennessee game, this was the Gunnar Stockton game. This was the game that, we mentioned in the first game that Carson Beck couldn't quite carry Miami through adversity. Gunnar Stockton carried Georgia through adversity. And the big thing was, you remember I mentioned in the preview, how conservative can they keep this while still winning ball games against big-time teams? He made throws downfield, 10-plus yard throws, 8 of 10, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 big-time throws. And just on the whole, if you want to wonder, for as an example, how a quarterback gets a 90 grade in a game, how about having 17 different plays where you got a positive grade and only 2 negatives the entire day, a couple balls over the middle that were high? But just outstanding stuff. Never put the ball in danger, threw the ball downfield very well from start to finish, and that's really the big difference we've seen in 2 games now against Tennessee and Ole Miss. If Georgia can throw the ball vertically down the field, they're really, really good, and they're really hard to stop. We know they can run the football. We know they can stop the run. We know their coverage unit is, for the most part, going to show up. It hasn't been quite as stout as maybe a couple of past years, but it's certainly good enough. This is the difference to me, is can they threaten you enough through the air to be two-dimensional down the field? They were in this game. That's why they had 43 points. That's why they were never stopped, like you mentioned. That's why they won this ball game.
Yeah, Gunnar Stockton's most impressive easily in this one. Career high 89.8 passing grade, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 picks, 3 big-time throws, no turnover-worthy plays, a 90% adjusted completion rate in this game, basically on target for 90% of his passes, a 145.1 passer rating. The perfect is 158.3, so nearly perfect for Gunnar Stockton too. He also ran for 56 yards and a touchdown with 5 first downs, rushing the ball too. Like the Tennessee game, he showed that he can lead Georgia to shootout victories, and that was a major question mark for us going into the year, is whether or not Georgia had the offense capable of winning these kinds of games like the Ole Miss game, like the Tennessee game. Gunnar Stockton showed in those two games, hey, if our defense is not playing well, we could still win these ball games because I can carry this team on my back.
Yep, absolutely. And that's big to know. Again, you don't want him to do it every week. You really don't want any quarterback to have to do it every week. But the fact that we've seen him twice now do it, that's what really puts Georgia in that inner circle of SEC contenders. Yes, they have a loss, but you figure you're not going to get A&M's the last undefeated team in the SEC, right? I mean, so you're going to get losses most likely out of everybody there, unless A&M really is going to go 12-0. But even then, that's only one spot in the title game. So Gunnar Stockton playing like this makes Georgia a prime contender in the SEC and possibly for a national championship. It's just got to get more consistent.
So Georgia with a massive, massive win over Ole Miss in the only top 10 showdown of the day, but not the only ranked game of the day. Not the only ranked game in the SEC of the day either, because next up we got number 6 Alabama beating number 11 Tennessee 37-20. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Their highest graded player was Ryan Williams. Kind of been an up and down sophomore year for him, but he was up in this one. 87.6 grade for the true sophomore star receiver. Cornerback Zabian Brown, another true sophomore who's a star for Alabama, 83.9. Another receiver here in Jeremy Bernard, 81.4. Another corner here in Red Morgan, 81.2. Caden Proctor, our guy, with a 78.3 grade at left tackle. And Ty Simpson with a really solid 73 grade in the win for Alabama. Let's go over to Tennessee now with their highest grade players in the loss. Running back to Sean Bishop, 79.9. Offensive tackle, true freshman offensive tackle, David Sanders Jr., 75.8. Great game there for the former top 10 recruit. Idris Farouk, the safety, 71.8. Joshua Josephs, the edge rusher, 70.7. Chris Brazel, the wide receiver, 69.7. And Joey Aguilar, the quarterback, with a 67.9 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story for you in this game?
This is a funky one because I know it's a 17-point win for Alabama, but I think just the Zabian Brown pick 6 at the end of the first half defined this whole game. I really do. You look at a lot of the underneath numbers, and this game was just about even. Tennessee outgained Alabama. The other 3 quarters were relatively even, especially the second half. That one play just flipped everything. It might
have been like a 14-point swing right there.
After that play, Tennessee, yes, they scored on their first drive of the second half, but the second half almost felt like a formality, didn't it? It was just like, how do you come back from that on the road when you were 1 yard from making this game 16-14, and in a span of 10 seconds, all of a sudden it's 23-7.
Yeah. And
you're playing a red-hot Alabama offense with Ty Simpson. Ryan Williams got going early in this game. Jeremy Bernard was really good. And I'm not saying, that 16 points is insurmountable. We see these comebacks, especially in college football, all the time. But that one singular play to me felt like it just totally took the wind out of Tennessee's sails. And even you look at the grading and things like that, they're relatively even. All the other numbers in this game say, hey, these are 2 pretty even football teams. And that one giant mistake, like you mentioned, that essentially made for a 14-point swing, I think that was it. I think if it's 16-14 going into half and Tennessee's coming off a touchdown, and then they maybe go and score in the first drive of the second half the same way they did, you got yourself an Alabama team in real danger at home. But Zabian Brown making the play. And for Alabama's defense, this has now been a theme 4 weeks in a row, right? There's times where they stagger and, it's not great. The pass rush can be inconsistent and things like that. But 4 weeks in a row, you're talking about season-defining plays, okay? Yep. The 4th down stop against Georgia late in the game, 4th and 1, right, when Georgia ran the hurry up. They got the stop there. Vanderbilt, the 2 red zone turnovers, right? They weren't overall spectacular all the way through in that game on defense, but the 2 red zone turnovers, 2 of the biggest plays of the season. Missouri, the 2 Bo Prabula interceptions and the stop on the fake punt at Missouri's own 40 or wherever that was. And then you have this pick 6. Alabama's defense right now, over and over and over, is making the biggest plays of the game, and they did it again in one play from Zabian Brown. Completely flipped this game in Alabama's favor when it looked like obviously it was a close game and Tennessee's still really good and they were driving in to go down 2 at halftime. And these season-defining plays on defense. The offense has been consistently, after the Florida State game, pretty darn great, but this defense is making plays at the right time in every single game they're playing right now. If they continue to do that, Bama's going to be really hard to beat because you just can't make those big mistakes against a team with an offense also this good.
Yeah, you mentioned it was a pretty even game all around. Well, one matchup that I thought would be pretty even going into it and why I talked about it in the preview was Alabama's offensive line against Tennessee's pass rush, because Alabama's been really good at protecting Ty Simpson in this game. Tennessee's pass rush is top 10 in the country in pass rush grade, but it was not even because Alabama dominated up front with the offensive line, an 89.6 pass blocking grade for Alabama. Great bounce back for that offensive line after not really playing that well against Missouri. They played really well against a similarly talented pass rush that Tennessee had too. 0 sacks, only 2 hits allowed on 35 pass attempts in this game for Alabama. Only 5 total pressures allowed by Alabama for a 14% pressure rate. All 5 of Alabama's starting offensive linemen earned at least a 79 pass blocking grade in this game. Alabama was my number 1 offensive line in the country entering the year, and they're proving why right now. Because when you have an offensive line that is pass protecting as well as Alabama is right now, and a quarterback in Ty Simpson that is as lethal from a clean pocket as he is, this is why Alabama can win a national title this year. Because if you have a quarterback like that and an offensive line like that and a receiving core with Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, and guys like that, and a defense that makes big-time plays that you just mentioned right there, Dalton, Alabama is absolutely in the inner circle right now of teams that can win a national title this year.
They might be. I mean, I would put Ohio State. I think they're rightfully number 1. They sure look like the best team in the country. You could argue, Indiana's undefeated. You have them number 2. That's fine for the work they've done. But you could argue Alabama's the 2nd or 3rd best team in the country right now. And any day that Ty Simpson's only pressured on 20% of his dropbacks, any day that the offensive line only gives up 5 pressures and Simpson's only hit twice all night, they're going to win that football game because Simpson's too good in clean pockets. It might not have been a 90 passing grade this week. He had a 73 this week, which is still very solid, especially considering you're playing a big SEC game against a top 12 team. But no, this offensive line now, it feels like after some early struggles against Florida State, especially in that first game, that they've really found their groove, and this is the unit we were expecting. And it's more than just 5 guys. I mean, they're playing 7, 8 guys up front, rotating at guard, rotating at that right tackle spot with Formby and Carroll. Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb, they're finding the right formula. They're keeping these guys fresh. And, man, how good has Caden Proctor been at left tackle? I mean, just
and wide receiver.
And wide receiver and fullback and quarterback and wherever else you need him. I mean, it feels like a story all the time. But the work, please, honestly. But, I mean, the work at left tackle he's been doing is the most important, and he's just been outstanding, too, off the blind side. And, for a quarterback like Simpson, who can move, but he's not Cam Newton or something back there, you didn't get really any pressure from the interior in this game. And that's big time for a guy in Ty Simpson who does want to operate from the pocket. So you're right, Alabama's offensive line has got it clicking. It's going to take a really good pass rush. And Missouri. Look, Missouri got pressure last week, and Alabama still found a way to win. This offensive line has given Ty Simpson a lot of chances to succeed.
This is a Tennessee pass rush that is elite. Right? This is a top 10 team in the country in pass rush grade this year. It's not like Tennessee is like Georgia or even like Alabama, for example, who doesn't really have a great pass rush. This was a great pass rush on paper, and Bama stonewalled them in this game. So this is a statement performance, I think, from Bama's front 5 in this one. Dalton, who impressed you the most, though, in this game?
I think, look, Alabama, and it was odd to see Ryan Williams not get a touch last week. But we know how much better they are when Ryan Williams is involved. And I like that they made a point early in this game to get him involved. 5 catches, 87 yards. 4 of those went for first downs. Also had a 16-yard carry. And then you got Jeremy Bernard playing like a monster on the other side, right? And Bernard's been consistent all year, probably more consistent than Williams. He had 5 for 60 himself and 4 carries for 49 yards, making 6 guys miss with regards to tackling. You have these top 2 guys both playing like this. Now, if they can just get Ryan Williams in this type of rhythm every single week with the explosive plays he can create. And again, I love that Ryan Grubb went to him early in this game. Look, you're not going to win the SEC. You're not going to win a national title without number 2 being that guy, right? And I know he's a true sophomore, and the expectations were so high coming into this year, but they are so much better. Honestly, just so much more fun to watch, right? With Ryan Williams playing the way he played last night.
It feels like what the Eagles should do with A.J. Brown. Like, get him involved early and often. Keep him involved in the game. He's your superstar receiver. Like, just get him involved and keep him involved.
Well, because it's constantly when you have multiple guys, too, and Isaiah Horton was really good, I thought, last night, too. And then the run game the run game wasn't spectacular yesterday, but it's always, I say this all the time, you have certain guys with that gravitational pull. That it's Ryan Williams, or on a lot of plays, it's the idea of Ryan Williams, right? You mentioned that with A.J. Brown. Well, Brown getting the doubles eventually when you target him, then Devontae Smith, then Dallas Goedert, then the run game, then everything else starts working. I just love that Ryan Grubb came out and made Ryan Williams the first domino instead of like last week against Missouri. I don't want to say working around him, but there just wasn't a focus on. This guy is too good not to get the football, not to get 8 to 10 targets in a game. This week he had 5 catches. That worked in this game against Tennessee, but I would expect that to ratchet up even more, especially then you can see it, the balance that it brings with Bernard, then with Horton, then we can start running the ball when everybody gets too high. It's just the right combination right there. So if that continues, this team's going to be so hard to stop now, because I think that's the one thing that's been holding them back is just Ryan Williams just needing to be more consistent, obviously catch the football, but also work him into the game plan, feature him, treat him like he's the superstar player that he is.
So, Dalton, my ears are ringing right now because I'm sure when we look at the comment section later on in this video, every single Alabama fan's going to be like, where is Yonsei Pierre on that graphic? He just missed out on being one of the 5 highest grade players on our for Alabama. I have to shout him out here, though, because what a game for him. 2 sacks, 1 hit, 6 pressures, and only 18 pass rush snaps, a 33% pressure rate in this game. And what a much-needed performance that Alabama needed from Yonsei Pierre as well, because they had so many injuries to their front seven, to a front seven that was really underperforming pass rush-wise this season. Pierre stepped in as a backup in this game as a redshirt sophomore, and he shined against Tennessee's offensive line. He showed why he was a 5-star recruit in the 2023 high school class. I know he was a backup going into it. This guy should get a lot more playing time with this kind of performance right here. I mean, even when others get healthy for Alabama right now, because Alabama needs pass rushers like that on their defense, and Yonsei Pierre was a star against Tennessee in this game.
Agreed. My biggest concern about Alabama's defense coming into the season was what else do they have in the pass rush other than LT Overton, right? And it's good that he can move inside or outside and get a consistent pass rush going, but who is going to be that second or even third guy? And over the last 3 weeks, it's been Yonsei Pierre. He's got 15 pressures over the last 3 weeks, and I think this is really a huge development for their defense, because now if it's not just LT Overton, we've talked before about Alabama, they've been struggling to rush the passer. If Pierre is going to continue to play like this, and even as the rotation gets deeper and those other guys get healthy, you still bring this guy in all those pass rush situations because he's getting it done. He's applying pressure to these quarterbacks. He was a big part of the safety being forced as well early in the game. I think this is a guy who's a difference maker right now. Maybe he's not perfect. He's not, an elite run defender. He's good enough, right? This is actually his first game of the year without a missed tackle. That's something we can work on and get more consistent with too. But the fact that he just generates pressure on a team that, aside from Overton, we were not sure where they were going to generate pressure, that's a huge development going into the second half of the season.
And even LT Overton and Tim Keenan, love those two players. I would say they're better run defenders than pass rushers right now. So if you get a pass rusher like Yonsei Pierre, I mean, like I said, they need that right now. Because Alabama's right now one of the worst pass rushing teams in the Power 4. But if you get a guy like Yonsei Pierre who can kind of carry that unit right now like this, all of a sudden that becomes a much more dangerous unit for Alabama this year. But great win for Alabama nonetheless over a top 15 team in Tennessee. And Alabama probably moving up to like maybe number 4, number 5 in the AP poll. We'll reveal where they are in my ranking later on in the show. But
4 sounds about right because A&M won, tough win over Arkansas. They'll probably be 3 in Alabama. 4.
I'll spoil it. Right. I have Alabama 4.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. I think that's kind of the obvious way to go about it.
How about that? Alabama, who started off 4 for me in the preseason after they lost to Florida State, like, oh boy, what's going to happen to Alabama this year? Right back to number 4, right where they started. So, hey. They're as good as we thought they were. So the Alabama, good call by you, Dalton. There's not really been a lot of good calls by really anyone for a national title pick just yet. Ohio State's still the favorite. I'm still saying that, of course. Alabama's right there too. So
we're alive right now. It just feels good to be done.
You got a chance.
Done with week 8 and still alive.
I'm dead. I got 4 losses to my national champion.
You're getting all the upsets going. Though.
Yeah, I am. In good and bad ways for me this year.
We'll flip this around this year, I guess.
Speaking of upsets. Number 7, Texas Tech going down to Arizona State, 26-22. Texas Tech suffering their first loss of the season. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the defending Big 12 champions, Arizona State. Their highest grade player was safety Montana Warren, 81.8 grade. Keyshawn Elliott, the linebacker, 74.1. Josh Atkins, the offensive tackle, 72.2. Javen Robinson, the corner, 71.7. Keith Abney, another corner, 71.2. Sam Levitt with only a 47.9 grade in the win, but he did come up big in the final drive of the game for Arizona State to take the lead ultimately and win the game. Texas Tech, meanwhile, their highest grade player was, of course, Jacob Rodriguez, who we consider right now to be probably the best linebacker in college football, 83.4 grade for him. Bryce Pollock, the cornerback, 71.5. Edge rusher, Romello Height, 71.1. Amir Boyd, the corner, 69. Lee Hunter, the D-tackle, 68.1. And Will Hammond, the quarterback, 67.3. Dalton, what told the story in this game?
So I think when you look at, and people are going to wonder about that low grade for Sam Levitt, because there certainly were highlights, and you mentioned the final drive as one of them, really the whole thing. And Arizona State, we were talking about this early in the game yesterday, where Arizona State's goal in this game against this defense was, look, stay in it for as long as you possibly can. And they built a lead. They certainly built a lead, and it looked for a while like they were just going to sit on that lead and be done with it. But the goal, I think, going into this game was, hey, stay in this against this monster of a team right now. And then if we get to the last 5 minutes in a one-score game, which we got there in a weird way, let's just see if Sam Levitt can win us a ball game. And this is the difference between having Sam Levitt in this lineup and out of it. And I think the stat to me is Arizona State, 6 explosive passes. Texas Tech, just one, just the Coy Aiken touchdown in the first half. That was the only pass they had that gained more than 15 or more yards. Arizona State had 6 of them, and I think the biggest thing with those 6, 5 of them, that one was first play of the game to Shimon Mateer. 5 of them after that, they all set up scores, 4 field goals, and then the game-winning touchdown. That's big. That's big time when you talk about that's what you want. Drives with explosive plays have such a higher percentage of scoring. That's what made the difference in this game. So you see the low grade there for Levitt. It was inconsistent. There were times where it wasn't great. There were 3 turnover-worthy plays. He still needs to be a little more accurate in rhythm a little more often, but the fact that he can make plays outside the pocket, the 2 bombs to Jaron Hamilton, there's only so many guys in the country who can make that throw breaking outside of the pocket. The play at the end with Jordan Tyson on the 4th and 2, basically crazy. The play of the game. You get a blitz up the middle. They lose contain. He rolls to his right. Tyson's just running an out and scramble drilled with Levitt to get up the sideline, and just an unbelievable play from both of them. And that's the bit that we've seen that is the biggest difference from the first year and a half of Kenny Dillingham and building the culture and becoming a tough physical team to once last year, ironically again, after a game they lost when Levitt was injured. Last year it was against Cincinnati. He comes back. They've got the chemistry going with Levitt and Tyson. They can make big plays in the passing game as well. This week, they didn't run the ball well. You're not going to run the ball very well in this Texas Tech front 7. That's just a fact. It wasn't a Raleek Brown game. They weren't going to run the football very well. It was going to be a grind. But it's almost one of those things. It's almost like in baseball terms. Look, this team is probably not better than us, but they can hit home runs. And that's exactly what Arizona State did. Is they came out, they hit 6 home runs, 5 of them turned into points, 19 points. Just a big difference in having Sam Levitt and the home run ability out there. It's not consistent. Arizona State at times this year has not looked consistent, but that high-end ability, especially of those 2 guys, Levitt and Tyson, and Jaron Hamilton, again, coming out of nowhere to have 100 yards in this game and to make especially 2 huge plays that set up a couple of field goals, big stuff. And that's exactly why you saw the difference in this offense between having Jeff Sims out there last week and having Sam Levitt in this week.
Yeah, absolutely. My stat that told the story of this one was Arizona State, both teams had 22 points in the final 4 minutes of this game. It was kind of a defensive slugfest for the most part. It was 19-7. Arizona State with about 4 minutes left to go in the game. Ended up being 26-22. Arizona State. So really back and forth defensive affair until Texas Tech scored 15 points in a minute and 45 seconds to go from down 19-7 to up 22-19 with 2 minutes left. And then Sam Levitt led a 75-yard touchdown drive right after that to give ASU the lead with only 34 seconds left. So like I said, a game that looked really much like a defensive slugfest exploded in the final 4 minutes of this game, and 22 total points in the final 4 minutes, and Arizona State ultimately got on top of it.
What this game did to the Big 12. So you think about first the 3 teams okay, that we thought were kind of sort of the favorites coming into this, right? So now you have Texas Tech beat Utah. Utah beat Arizona State. And Arizona State beat Texas Tech. So now you've got a round robin between the three of them in second place. And also we got another game to get into later. But the two teams at the top of the Big 12 are BYU and Cincinnati. And those three teams I just mentioned are chasing them. And now we've got just absolute chaos like we did last year. So, no, this was, I mean, the way it went down in the end is what it is for Arizona State, but this is certainly a game where you just get out with a win. As talented a team as Texas Tech is, and they can still win a lot of ball games, and they probably will, this was so big for Arizona State's season, and the way this resets them, just like last year. We didn't have Levitt for a game. We lost the conference game. We're limping a little bit. And now they get right back on the horse. And all of a sudden, too, a huge game against Houston next week, who's 6-1. And they only have one loss in the conference as well. So, I mean, you got the Big 12 shaping up to be as chaotic as it was last year. And credit to Kenny Dillingham just coming out with the right plan. And the one thing I'd be concerned with for Texas Tech, and I like Will Hammond. He's talented. He made some plays late in this game, and I think the athleticism in the run game helps. But there was a real struggle to get vertical in this game. That is a problem. We hadn't seen that before. If Baron Morton has to come back and be the more vertical passer, and he's clearly better with that, then obviously you want him back on the field as soon as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, what was the most impressive part of this game to you?
You know what? Just give me Jordan Tyson. And you saw him struggling with the hamstring late in the game, and was it his best receiving grade and the most dominant performance consistently throughout a game that he's had? No, but I mean, at the end of the day, you look at this. 10 catches, 105 yards. Again, the huge scramble drill play that was the biggest play of the game. Touchdown earlier on the game that was just unfair down on the goal line.
105 yards, same is like whatever. Which is crazy. That's a benchmark.
Yeah, right. And it feels like I'm watching this again. It feels like something we shouldn't shake off. And I think with Jordan Tyson, and we saw this in I think it was the Baylor game. No, the TCU game that they won. He had the touchdown in the end zone on the inside slant. They go to him in big moments. Yep. 4 of those 10 catches were in the last 2 minutes of the game, right? I mean, it's just that's where it's going to down on the goal line when they're trying to score a touchdown on the one. Who's getting the ball? Jordan Tyson. And you can know it. You can know number zeros out there and all you want. You put him one-on-one, he's getting the football. He's going to win that battle. So, again, not wicked flashy at times. Came through at the end because you want your best players to win you these types of games. Again, 4 catches in the final 2 minutes. But Jordan Tyson, at the end of the day, if he's getting 100 on this defense, he's unstoppable. And I think that's going to continue to work to Arizona State's advantage at all times. This big moments, they want to run the ball. They want to play physical defense. But in the biggest moments of their season, it's going to be Sam Levitt and it's going to be Jordan Tyson, and they're going to see how far that takes them.
Yep. I want to go with the Arizona State secondary in this game, the entire unit, because they did a great job against Will Hammond in this one. Only a 59.8 passing grade and a 48.2 receiving grade for Texas Tech in this game. Only 4.4 yards per pass allowed. Like Dalton mentioned, only 1 explosive pass allowed as well. 5 different Sun Devils had around a 70 coverage grade or better in this game. ASU's defense really stepped up when Sam Levitt did not have his best stuff in this game. Like, if you told me Sam Levitt would grade below a 50 in this game, I did not think Arizona State would have enough to win, but they did because their secondary really stepped up. Again, against a backup quarterback in Will Hammond, but still, they stepped up against Will Hammond and did a great job of keeping Arizona State in this game.
And even that one explosive play, look at the throw that it took Will Hammond to score that touchdown. I mean, just an unreal throw, one of the best throws I saw all day yesterday. I think that was big. Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham told his team, hey, listen, we're not going to get a ton of points in this game. They're probably grateful to have gotten 26 against this defense. That's going to be maybe the most points scored against this defense all year, honestly. But I think when you look at what they did on the back end, and this defense has really, ever since last year, been built from the back forward. They were outstanding in this game. And look, they were outstanding against the run. At no point, even as they were playing so well in coverage, did they let Texas Tech's run game take over. I mean, just a great defensive effort from Arizona State. And again, when they needed it most, it's Levitt and Tyson making things happen. Just it puts them right back on track for Big 12 contention. They would have really been in trouble had they lost this game.
Yeah, Arizona State, the defending Big 12 champion, taking down the favorite to win the Big 12 in Texas Tech. And like Mickey says in the chat right now, the Big 12 is a war zone right now, and he loves it. The Big 12 every single year. We should have known better, Dalton, than saying, oh, there's a clear favorite in the Big 12 right now. There's never a clear favorite in the Big 12. Never. We should have known better.
Listen, honestly, 3 of the 4 Power 4 conferences really are a war zone right now. I mean, you look at all the good teams in the SEC, obviously, and then, I mean, between Texas Tech losing in this one and Miami losing that game on Friday, you've got absolute chaos already in the Big 12, in the ACC, and in the SEC. We knew that was coming because there's too many good teams for there not to be. But no, there's going to be game break. There's going to be just back-breaking stuff that happens to somebody every week with as tight as the contention is with so many teams right now.
So next time Dalton and I try to tell you, hey, there's a clear favorite in the Big 12, we want the chat to hold us accountable
just
for that.
Call us liars.
Be
just
like, hey, you know better. There's never a clear favorite in the Big 12 conference because there really is not. Last year, this year, almost every single year, the Big 12 is always a wide-open conference, and the favorite to win it, Texas Tech, suffers their first loss of the year to Arizona State. Let's get to another ranked game that we had on Saturday. Number 17, Vanderbilt, taking down number 10, LSU, 31-24. Let's go over the highest-graded player, starting off with the Vanderbilt Commodores. Their highest-graded player was tight end Cole Spence with a 90.6 grade. Cornerback Mark Davis, 84. Jordan White, the star center for Vanderbilt, with a 75.3. McKylan Young, the running back, 74. Joshua Singh, D tackle, 73.1. And, of course, Diego Pavia with a 90.3 grade, hitting the Heisman pose as well in the win over LSU. Maybe in that Heisman race right now, Dalton. I'll say it right now. Absolutely.
No, absolutely. He's at least in there. He has to be.
Yeah.
No question.
LSU, their highest grade players in the loss. Trades Green, the monster tight end, 84.3. Mansour Delane, the star cornerback, the winner of our midseason Thorpe Award, 72.5. DJ Pickett, the true freshman corner for LSU, 71.8. Braylon Moore, the center, 71.3. Devon Keys, the linebacker, 70.5. And Garrett Nussmeier, who tried to be a hero, and it almost worked out for LSU, but not quite enough, with a 76.2 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story for you in this game?
It's a great thing to mention there that Nussmeier, he did everything he could, man.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you saw him even distraught on the sideline because the effort that he put in, even through all the hits that he's taken. Look at that. I mean, they could make a highlight reel of the hits that he's taken the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's just been unbelievable how tough that guy is. You have to credit him. But at the end of the day, and this is crazy to say when you're talking about a game, and again, you got to kind of get out of the old mindset here, but in a game between LSU and Vanderbilt was clearly the better team in the trenches. That's a wild statement to make, and I think that's a big reason why this Vanderbilt team is so much better than they were last year. I think there's 2 big reasons: better in the trenches, and I think more receiving depth. When you talk about now a second tight end in Cole Spence who's emerged, you talk about receivers like Junior Sherrill and Trey Richardson, and there's just a better depth of pass-catching options. But this trench play in this game, Vanderbilt offensive line grade 70, pass blocking grade 83. A lot of the pressures on Pavia were really created by Blake Baker. LSU was not winning much up front on their defensive line, their pass rushers. Okay, Blake Baker had some good looks going, got a lot of unblocked pressures, but Pavia worked around him for the most part. That's what makes him so dangerous. LSU's offensive line, PFF grade 49.9, pass blocking grade 43.
That's not new.
It's not new either for this season, and it was my biggest concern coming into this year about LSU was, they have Nussmeier, they have all the weapons, they got more weapons emerging, right? They've got Caden Durham coming back, they got everything coming back. They lost 4 starters to the NFL on the offensive line, and when it's guys, especially like Will Campbell at left tackle, you don't just replace those guys overnight. That's not a thing that happens. When you had one of the best offensive lines in the country over the last 3 years, right? That was a unit with a ton of experience, too, that had played together for so long, lost 4 starters. I think you're seeing these repercussions every week. We've talked about it so much in the run game in past weeks where they struggled to run the ball. I think they had 100 yards flat rushing in this game, too. They didn't really run the football very well in this game. The pass protection now and the amount that Garrett Nussmeier as a drop-back passer is getting hit, it's unsustainable. And credit to him for working through that. And he was so good under pressure in this game, but they're losing one-on-one battles up front, and it's a problem. And if I really think a huge reason, if they end up missing the playoff, I really think a huge reason is because this offensive line lost so many pieces from a unit that was so great for multiple years. And now you see, especially Will Campbell, a guy that's playing so great for New England right now as their starting left tackle. You don't just lose guys like that and replace them. It's not that easy, especially up front when there was so much continuity. So I think, look, Vanderbilt's offensive line was better. Their defensive line by the grading was 9-10 points better in this game. They won this game in the trenches. And that's a big difference because last year when Vanderbilt was losing games, it's because they just weren't quite there yet. They weren't there. Pavia and Stowers were a threat. The coverage was getting better, but they weren't there in the trenches yet. This team is there now. They're at least solid enough where they can compete at the top of the SEC now. It's why they're in the playoff race. And now, and when you have Pavia and you have him protected outside of the creative blitz looks from Blake Baker, just unbelievable stuff from Vandy on both sides of the ball. But I think the trench play was a huge difference, and it's still a huge – LSU's got to play A&M next week. It doesn't get easier. This offensive line especially has got to figure it out.
Yeah, I want to shout out Jordan White real quick, the transfer center they got from Liberty. He was an outstanding player at Liberty, transferred over to Vanderbilt. He's been one of the best centers in the country this year. I know it's been the entire offensive line too, but I think Jordan White's been the leader of that offensive line as a transfer from Liberty, and he's been great for them so far. So great get by Clark Lee and that staff for finding him in the portal, because he was a star player at Liberty at center, and he's been a star player for Vanderbilt at center this year too.
And he played guard last year, played center in 2023, played guard last year, and now back at center, and he's been their best offensive line. He's been outstanding.
Yep. So speaking of the trenches, Vanderbilt with 247 rushing yards against LSU in this one. They were able to really avoid LSU's elite secondary, guys like Mansour Delane and A.J. Halsey and D.J. Pickett and Tamarcus Cooley. They were able to avoid them for the most part in this game. We'll talk about Diego Pavia more in a minute, who did play very well, but 5.6 yards per carry for Vanderbilt, 7 explosive runs totaling 147 yards on explosive runs. Diego Pavia had 91 yards on the ground. McKylan Young had 85 yards on the ground too, and a 66.6 run blocking grade is the best for Vanderbilt against a Power 4 team this year too. So the offensive line, Pavia, Young, everyone in that run game was really firing on all cylinders against LSU. 247 rushing yards will get it done against LSU.
Absolutely. 7 explosive runs, forced 9 missed tackles against what's generally been a very good tackling unit this year. And you know what you felt? You felt the absence of Whit Weeks.
Yes,
I mean, when we heard, I believe it was the night before, that he was doubtful for this game, and I was already concerned about Vanderbilt's ability to run the ball on LSU, that this could be a vulnerable spot for LSU, particularly between the tackles. And then we heard that Whit Weeks was doubtful. It's like, that's an issue. That's a serious issue, because that's the guy that you need in this game, and his absence clearly, I think, played a big part in it, on top of the offensive line winning at the first level.
Absolutely. Dalton, what stood out the most for you in this game?
I think just actually on both sides, because I want to throw Trey'Dez Green in here, just the tight end play, man.
Shout out Max Toscano.
Shout out Max Toscano. He's always pointing out the tight ends. I'm going to pull a Max here on this show. I mean, you look at, first of all, Cole Spence in his emergence over the last 2 weeks, and all of a sudden you've got 2 good tight ends in an offense that can get so creative.
Great. I mean, Eli Stowers might be the best in the country.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and Spence in this game, 5 catches, 56 yards, a touchdown, a couple of really nice catches on off-target throws. Stowers also had 3 for 32. He's always a factor and somebody that defenses have to look out for. And you feel like one of these weeks, it's going to be a huge Stowers week, because everybody else has been getting the job done. Alexander, Pavia scrambling, Cole Spence now the last couple weeks, right? Trey Richardson with the speed, right? One of these weeks, a defense is going to forget about Eli Stowers, and he's going to go for 130. I'm just feeling it. I know he hasn't had that huge breakout game yet this year. That's coming. I think teams are just so keyed in on him. But if you can get in this 12 personnel with him and Cole Spence, and Spence is a legit threat, you got some serious matchup nightmares. So those 2 guys both really good again. And then Trey'Dez Green right now is LSU's best player.
Yeah.
He looks like Kyle Pitts out there. That's what we're really looking at. 85.6 receiving grade in this game. 5 catches, 74 yards, the touchdown on the middle screen. I think it's just the best way I can put it. He's their best offensive player, and I think they came out of the bye week last week going, you know what, or I should say the bye week 2 weeks ago, and then last week's game against South Carolina, going, this guy's a freak. We just got to use him. He's uncoverable. I think there really are times where he's uncoverable, and an athlete like that at 6'7", I hate that, but don't worry about it. It's just one. Yeah. I know somebody, Eli probably in the back, just did it.
I don't even know what that even is referring to, by the way.
It's just nonsense. Yeah, see, there goes Eli
right
back. But either at 6'7", Trey'Dez Green is just an outstanding football player.
You're an old man, Dalton. That's what you are.
I know. No, I've always been one. But that's just like,
you've been an old man since you were born, dude. You were born 42 years old.
No, exactly. Yeah. And now I'm just 72. Yes. If you're gonna come up with some random stupid phrase, please just have a reason for it. There's just no background at all. There's just
I'll admit I don't know what it's referring to.
No one does.
Yeah, it's very dumb.
Just at least have, if you're gonna have a stupid phrase, just I have a lot of stupid phrases, but at least I have some sort of origin story.
Yeah, you watch Beavis and Butthead, dude.
Right.
Yeah.
But at least that comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess so.
Boy, oh boy. Anyway, we're side. That's my old man rant of the day.
All right, I'll shout out another old man, Diego Pavia, right now. But Diego Pavia's been unbelievable. He's been unbelievable for Vanderbilt right now. The heart and soul of Vanderbilt's program, quickly becoming a legend in college football. 90.3 PFF grade for Pavia in the win. Like I mentioned before, he ran for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns. 91.9 passing grade with 3 big-time throws and 0 turnover-worthy plays. Just some stupid, I know Johnny Manziel is mentoring right now, like some Johnny Manziel-esque plays back there where he's like spinning around, somehow finds a receiver wide open, somehow escapes pressure and gets the first down. Just a heroic performance by Diego Pavia in this game. Constantly made magic happen against LSU, and that's been the defining characteristic of Diego Pavia in his career. Magical. This guy's magical for Vanderbilt back there. Vanderbilt, 6-1 for the first time in 75 years that the Commodores are 6-1 to start a season. It's their second win over a top 10 team in the last 2 years, of course, beating number 1 Alabama last year. So 2 wins against top 10 teams with Diego Pavia in 2 years. They had 2 in the previous 48 seasons combined, dude. What Diego Pavia is doing at that program right now is unbelievable. And I think, Dalton, the stat that told the story for me really in this game, Vanderbilt at home beat a top 10 team in LSU. They did not storm the field.
Don't need to.
That is what has changed in this Vanderbilt program, is that they expected to win this game. Not hope for a win. They expected to win this game because of what Clark Lee and really what Diego Pavia has done for that program. That, to me, told the story. Because I was expecting, okay, they're going to rush the field. They didn't. They're like, oh, all right, good win. Let's move on to next week. Vanderbilt football is legit now. It's not only a Cinderella story like last year. It is a legitimate college football playoff contender this year.
Yep. Missouri, Texas, Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee. Can they go 4-1 out of that?
They could.
They go 4-1 out of that. They're going. They're going to be in the top 12. And
Vanderbilt in the playoff would rule.
Oh, this Missouri game next week, and we're going to get into Missouri-Auburn in a bit. But this Vandy-Missouri game next week, boy, what it would set one of those 2 teams up for the rest of the way. What a ball game that's going to be. Yeah. I think that's just an outstanding. And the fact that it's those 2 teams who, even though there was decent expectations of them, were really thought of in the second or maybe even third tier of the SEC, you're talking about inner circle, whoever wins that game next week.
Yep. Andrew Harbaugh in the chat right now says, as a father of a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, the 6-7 thing is going to be the death of me. I think it's also going to be the death of Tyler back there. I know his kids have been doing the 6-7 thing a lot too.
Oh, yeah. No, I can't even imagine what parents are going
So many people in the chat are like, I have no idea what the 6-7 thing means either. We're not alone here. We're not alone.
It's just
Eli's doing it.
Yeah, Ty's going to strangle him back there is what he's going to do. Oh, boy.
What a win for Vanderbilt, though. 31-24 win over a top 10 team in LSU, and the Vanderbilt Commodores are all of a sudden looking more and more likely as a college football playoff contender this year. Could not believe I'm saying that a couple years ago, but that's what happens. You get a guy like Diego Pavia and get some magic in that program right now. All right, let's get to another ranked matchup that we had on Saturday with number 13 Notre Dame beating number 20 USC 34-24. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Highest grade player was defensive tackle Jason Anye with a 90.2 grade. Jeremiah Love with a career day 85.4 grade for one of the best running backs in the country. Don Schuler with a 82.4 grade. Drake Bowen, 80.6. Jared Dawson, the D tackle, 78.4. And CJ Carr with a okay 57.2 grade. Really could rely on, though, the running backs for him in this game with Jeremiah Love. And, of course, Darian Price, too, in that one. USC, with their highest grade players, was cornerback DeCarlos Nicholson, 78.4. Tanuke Hines, the wide receiver, 71.2. Christian Pierce, the safety, 69.6. Braylon Shelby, the edge rusher, 68.7. True freshman D tackle Jakeem Stewart, 66.5. And Jaden Mayava with a 64.7 grade. For any Notre Dame fans wondering, Jadarian Price's kickoff return touchdown does not count into his overall offensive grade, right?
Yeah, that'll be separate. Yeah.
So that's why. So that's his Jadarian Price's offensive grade wasn't enough to be in the top 5. if he had the kick return touchdown in there too, he probably would have been in the top 5.
Yeah. It's just that the special teams stuff, the kick return stuff, goes into a separate category there. But no, I mean, obviously,
I'm so used to the comments already, Dalton. I know what people will be commenting, so that's why I wanted to shout that out right there.
No, absolutely. And actually, that's right where I'm going to start, is with that play, which honestly we may look back on if and when Notre Dame is a part of that playoff selection process there. If they're in the top 12, we may look at that Jadarian Price kick return as their biggest play of the season. And I'll tell you why. Look, just before that, Jacoby Lane with a big touchdown to give USC a 24-21 lead. Price returns that kick, and albeit with the missed extra point, 27-24, Notre Dame in the rain with now the home crowd riled up again, and they have all the momentum again. And we've seen it twice now. Even if you're going to go and beat Notre Dame with as much talent as they have, especially in Notre Dame, Miami did it in Miami, but it took all 60 minutes. A&M did it at Notre Dame, I should say. It took them all 60 minutes. You have to play the full 60 minutes if you're going to beat this Notre Dame team. And that Jadarian Price kick return felt like it just flipped, even though it was only a 3-point game, like it just flipped the final switch. Here's USC's last 4 drives, okay? Christian Gray, interception. The Mekhi Lemon fumble on what looked like it was going to be a trick play, turnover on downs, and then a Luke Talich interception to finish it off. 2 picks, a turnover on downs, and a fumble. 22 plays USC ran in the last 4 drives. 85 yards, 51 offense grade. Notre Dame had an 85 defense grade. It just, that, again, kind of like I talked about with the Zabian Brown pick 6 in the Alabama game, that Jadarian Price kick return. When USC for almost 3 quarters didn't seem rattled, that seemed to rattle them.
Yeah.
It did.
Did you see the video of like Jaden Mayav on the sideline after it? They were pissed. It's
exactly.
like, dude, that just deflates after a great touchdown drive to take the lead, and one play immediately Notre Dame takes the lead. It's like, dude, we can't catch a break right now.
And you could feel it, and then you get on these guys get on the field, and you almost feel like there's this pressure of like, we just did all this work to get a lead against this team in the rain, in an environment where that favors Notre Dame in the run game. You're going to work on that in a second. Certain times you just get one huge heroic game-changing play. It's Jadarian Price breaking a couple of tackles and housing a kick return. And look, Notre Dame still had to go out there and play great defense, but I think the exact reason that, to me, you and I both picked Notre Dame to win this game was we trust their defense a little bit more. That in just a few big moments, and that ended up being the last 4 drives, that they were more likely to make stops than USC was. That was exactly the case here, and all 3 phases matter. The kick return. It reminded me almost of the the Jaden Harrison kick return against Georgia in the playoff game last year, where that really was actually the biggest play of the game, along the strip sack right before the half. But the Jaden Harrison kick return after half in that game really kind of was like, okay, this is now a Notre Dame's game to lose right here. Same thing in this one. When he did that, you could feel USC was like, why? Like, now it's special teams. We're already dealing with Jeremiah Love. It's hard enough to cover all these guys and CJ Carr throwing the ball. And now they return. Now they house the kickoff, and they got this stadium right back in it. That feels like a big inflection point for not just this game, but Notre Dame's. That will be the biggest play of Notre Dame's season if they make the playoff.
It's an emotional roller coaster because the sideline from the USC was going crazy after the touchdown, after taking the lead, and then one play, immediately you're down again. And it's just like, it's so deflating on the sideline to just be like, we can't catch a break right now. So, yeah, that was a huge, huge play by Jadarian Price. I'll talk about him later on, too. But Notre Dame, actually right now, Notre Dame 7.3 yards per carry in this game. An incredible effort by the Notre Dame rushing attack to run all over the Trojans in this one. 315 total rushing yards for the Fighting Irish, 2.9 yards before contact per attempt. Notre Dame was averaging almost 3 yards per carry before contact against USC, with 4.4 yards after contact per carry. And before Jeremiah Love, career high 228 rushing yards, with 107 coming after contact and a touchdown. Jadarian Price, 87 yards and a touchdown, also the kickoff return touchdown too. They have the best backfield in college football with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, and combine that with an offensive line that was moving people in the run game like they were last night, and you get results like that with over 300 total rushing yards.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Jeremiah Love, my most impressive, those 2 Notre Dame running backs. I mean, you're talking about one in Jeremiah Love, who led all players this week with 228 rushing yards. And tell you what, We've been giving it to Ahmad Hardy. We gave it to Ahmad Hardy in the midseason awards, but Love all of a sudden maybe starting to get hot towards that Doak Walker that we predicted in preseason to win, right? I mean, you've got some really good candidates. LJ Martin from BYU's been outstanding as well. But Love with the 228 yards, Jadarian Price, A, with the kick return, and B, with 13 carries for 87 yards, darn near 7 yards a carry. I mean, that'll do it any day of the week. I just think, and in this game where C.J. Carr at times did look shaky, and the red zone interception rolling out and just trying to make something out of nothing, that was probably, I think, the worst play I've seen him make all year. Yeah. And for Notre Dame to just go, you know what? Let's get back to Notre Dame football and just run it right down the pipe and see if they can stop us. And USC just couldn't do it. And I think that's really, again, the biggest thing for USC is you can't ask your offense to be perfect every week. And for the last 4 weeks now, their defense has just not been great. And you figured they wouldn't be great in this game against a Notre Dame offense that's firing on all cylinders. But if USC is going to get hot down the stretch here and try to keep themselves in a Big Ten or in a playoff mix, they got to make stops in big moments. And they couldn't get enough stops in this game, and Notre Dame did in the latter parts of this game.
So Notre Dame defensively had 3 guys with over an 80 PFF grade, including Jason Anya mentioned before with a 90.2 grade. He obviously was great. I want to shout out a guy who had a 68.6 grade, though, and I want to provide context to why I'm shouting him out. That is Leonard Moore, the cornerback from Notre Dame. Again, his grade won't jump off the page at 68.6, but you got to give him his flowers for what he did in this game, what he was asked to do in this game. Because Leonard Moore, who is one of, if not the best, I would say right now, the best cover corner that we have in college football. He was my number 1 corner in the country going into the year. He's only a true sophomore right now. He was outstanding as a true freshman last year. He usually plays only on the outside in this game. But Marcus Freeman, going into the week, went up to him and said, hey, we need you to play in the slot because USC right now has the best receiver in the country. Our midseason award for the Blitnikoff Award went to Mekhi Lemon. He's the best receiver in college football. He wins from the slot. Notre Dame, Devontae Smith, their corner, is injured right now, their slot corner. So their slot coverage has been really bad this year. Marcus Freeman went to Leonard Moore and said, we need you to play in the slot against Mekhi Lemon. So you're playing out of position against the best receiver in the country in Mekhi Lemon. That should favor Mekhi Lemon. It did not in this game because Leonard Moore locked him up against Mekhi Lemon when he was guarding him. Only 2 catches on 3 targets for 28 yards. Mekhi Lemon only had a 57.6 receiving grade when guarded by Leonard Moore in this game. Again, he was out of position against Mekhi Lemon, who's going to be a top 15 pick probably in the NFL draft and still probably could win the Blitnikoff Award this year. What Leonard Moore did as a true sophomore, playing in the slot like that, he's never really played in the slot before, is incredible, man. This guy is an absolute superstar, and I would say right now, I would almost lock him in to being a top 10 pick in next year's draft, which is crazy to say considering how many unreal players we have already in next year's draft. But what that guy is doing right now, Dalton, I mean, he is like on Derek Stingley Jr. levels of college play right now. Leonard Moore is an absolute star for that Notre Dame secondary.
Yeah, Lemon got him once for a 27-yard catch. That's going to happen. And he committed a penalty one other time. That's going to happen with the man-to-man coverage. It seemed like Notre Dame's best tool, and we saw this so much last year, was an obvious pass. They're going to get in man-to-man, and because they had to change. Mekhi Lemon is the type of player that makes you change the structure of your defense.
Yes.
I mean, to me, it's only more proof that he's a top 20 pick, right? Where it's like Notre Dame had to change their entire defensive structure to slow down this guy. And they took their chances with Christian Gray on Jacoby Lane and other matchups like that. And Gray made a huge play late in the game when he needed to. But Leonard Moore being able to do that, let's put it like this, 41 snaps in the slot last night. He never had a game before that with more than 10.
Yeah,
he had 75 snaps in the slot in his career coming into this game. And, Marcus Freeman was fun. He was nice enough to hint at it earlier in the week of like, we might have to. We know how good that guy is, but we also know how good Leonard Moore is and just outstanding stuff. That's exactly, I mean, there is, to me, I actually don't think there's any question. I don't know that there's another corner in the country that could do that. That could do what he just did. He is on, you mentioned it, that level of corner that can go in the top 10 of the draft next year in 27 amongst a loaded class. No, he is now a weapon. And the fact that he got in the slot and can do that, if Notre Dame wants to go to that in any other week or in the playoff or whenever, feel free.
And it'll get easier against anyone else. Because that's the best slot receiver in the country by a mile.
Absolutely. I mean, and even on the outside, you can get the shadow going. We've seen that before. And Notre Dame in coverage, they might not be quite as all-around good as last year, but they can make you beat them with their number 2 and 3 and 4 because number 1 with number 15 on them, not getting it done.
No, a season-low receiving grade for Mekhi Lemon in that game. Just incredible. And then listen, if Leonard Moore did not do that, and he didn't play like that, or he didn't even play in the slot at all, I think USC might win this ball game. Because I think Mekhi Lemon probably would have had like over 120 yards and touchdown or something like that.
Yeah.
Notre Dame really did struggle in slot coverage that much with Devontae Smith out. Leonard Moore being able to do that for this defense, that might have won the ball game. I know Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price got all the love, and they deserve that, of course. But Leonard Moore should not be forgotten about because what he did was so massive for that defense.
And it takes a lot of guts because defensive coordinators a lot of times can be some of the most stubborn people on the planet. And Marcus Freeman and Chris Ash having the guts to go,
yeah,
this is our only option, isn't it? It's to do this and to just not let that guy, because he took over the Illinois game, even though they lost. He feels like he's taken over every single week. He's just unstoppable. This is our only option. This is the only way we get stops on defense. Just outstanding. It takes a lot of guts from the coaching staff to let him do it, but the fact that Leonard Moore, again, as a true sophomore, is good enough to let them do that,
yeah,
unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, I guess the best receiver in the country right now, Mekhi Lemon. Just crazy stuff from Leonard Moore. All right, Notre Dame taking down USC 34-24. Before we move on to the other games to talk about here in this review show, going to talk about the sponsor show that is DraftKings. So this PFF betting segment is brought to you by DraftKings. Lines and odds are subject to change. So actually, Dalton, let's go over the Heisman odds real quick on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. After Week 8 of college football, you see right there, Fernando Mendoza is the new Heisman favorite at plus 280. Ty Simpson at plus 300. Julian Sayin moving up to plus 400. Marcel Reed at plus 1100. And Diego Pavia, our guy, at plus 1200 right there. So that wraps up the top 5 of Heisman odds, Dalton. Anyone there that you think should be the Heisman favorite right now?
I think it's still pretty hard to pick out a favorite, honestly. I think those first probably 5 guys are probably the contenders. I think Diego Pavia, if Diego Pavia gets Vandy to the playoff, leading that team in the way he does both through the air and on the ground, that's got to be a real consideration there. Julian Sayin too. I'm going to talk about him a little later.
He's perfect.
He's unfair. He just doesn't miss. Also, Mendoza, another great game this week against Michigan State. I mean, you had a lot of guys, especially quarterbacks, who played well. Dante Moore just tore Rutgers to shreds this week. It's going to go down to the wire, and I think I actually think it could come down to either if Pavia were to run the table and get that Vandy team to the playoff. That's one thing. There's a good chance we're going to get Sayin versus Mendoza in Indianapolis at the end of the regular season. It could just be the winner of that game. That might be the most likely path to it. But, I mean, there's some guys who are playing so well. Ty Simpson, we can't forget about him, too. Just another excellent week. I mean, he's another one. Just feels like he doesn't miss right now.
I would say Julian Sayin should be the favorite right now, but it is certainly a wide-open race right now with Mendoza, with Ty Simpson, with Diego Pavia. Marcel Reed saw up there in the top 5 of odds, too. Texas A&M quarterback. So, yeah, I would say Julian Sayin has been so far the best quarterback in the country, so I would make him the favorite right now. But it is certainly still a wide-open race in the Heisman that will get the second half of the season. So should be really, really fun race. But one play can change the season. One upset can silence a stadium. And with every snap, the stakes get higher. And no one brings you closer to the action than DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook for live betting. For live in-game betting to rivalry week odds boosts and so much more, DraftKings Sportsbook keeps you in the game from kickoff until the final whistle. Whether you're riding with your favorite team or making moves as momentum shifts, the game is always in your hands with DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get paid out $300 in bonus bets instantly. Own every Saturday with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code PFF. That's code PFF to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 789-7777, or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, pass-through of per-wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. All right, next up, and the final one of the 5 ranked games that we had in Week 8 of college football was number 15 BYU beating number 23 Utah in the Holy War 24-21. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the BYU Cougars. 2 highest graded players were both safeties. I'll talk about them later on in the show, but Tanner Wall, 88, and Faletau Satuala with an 85. Bruce Mitchell, the center, 82.1. Carson Ryan, the tight end, I believe the former Utah tight end.
Correct.
Yeah, 76.8. Great revenge game there for Carson Ryan. Jack Kelly, linebacker, 72.5. And Bear Bachmeier, the true freshman quarterback, with a really solid 74.8 grade in the win. Now for Utah, their highest grade players in the loss, you got Jackson Benny, the safety, 80.5. Cornerback Smith Snowden, 75.2. Logan Fano, the edge rusher and brother of Spencer Fano, the right tackle, 72.9. Daniel Bray, the running back, 71.6. Lavani Damuni, the linebacker, 69.2. And Devin Dampier, the quarterback for Utah, with a 75.7 grade in the loss for Utah. Dalton, what told the story for you in this game?
I think there's multiple layers to BYU's identity right now. 1, play excellent defense. They did that in this game for sure. Number 2, run the football. LJ Martin was fantastic. And then I think number 3, the X factor when they really need to get the passing game going. You want a crazy stat? I'll give you a crazy stat, a bad one sort of, and then it is a bad one, and I'll give you a good one. Without play action, BYU had -3 passing yards in this game. Without play action. The good news is that all year, one of the themes is that Bear Bachmeier has been one of the best play action passers in the country. In fact, after this game, he now has the 3rd best play action passing grade in the country. So when you talk about the way that LJ Martin and this team, and Bachmeier included, is running the football and the way their offensive line is playing, you get the play action going, you're good. In this game, Bear Bachmeier, 90.2 play action passing grade. EPA per pass with play action, 0.426. Good stuff. Crazy number. Without play action, -1.5. Basically losing a 1.5 expected points at least when they are just dropping back and throwing the football. This is a game where they had to stick to the formula, stick to their identity. Bachmeier was outstanding with the play-action passing. The run game was outstanding really for both teams, but BYU especially in the way that it sets up. And I can't credit Aaron Roderick enough for the way that he's been calling these games. It's a little bit different than last year when they had Jake Retzloff. It's more run-centric. It's more play-action-centric and just doing the things that Bachmeier is comfortable with. And now you come out of this game with obviously him as your true freshman quarterback. You're 7-0 with a true freshman quarterback, which is silly. You got more heavyweight fights coming like this one against Iowa State, against Texas Tech, against Cincinnati. There's more games that are going to decide if BYU is going to make the Big 12 title game here, especially those 3 big ones. But the fact that Bachmeier and this team can stick to their identity and now fight, it just feels like everything for BYU just feels, especially with this quarterback, it feels like another step. Okay, we beat a middling team in Colorado on the road. We fell behind. Cool. Now we beat a little bit better team in Arizona. Fall behind early, find a way to win it late. Now you got the big rival Utah. You come back home. You know you're going to get a fist fight. You know one way or the other this is going to be a 3-point game. And Utah is giving you problems in the drop back game. But the fact that BYU, again, their biggest strength is cohesion and identity. It's just their ability to play together and continue to play to their identity for the entire game. I think in this game, when Bachmeier needed to be big in big moments, especially with the play-action passing as he's been all year, he came up big again. It's unbelievable stuff for a true freshman to be playing like this and be 7-0.
Yeah, I want to shout out BYU's defense in this one because Utah was 1 for 5 on 4th down. So shout out BYU's defense for standing tall on some massive plays in this game, but also some head-scratching decisions, I would say, by Kyle Whittingham in this one, too, because Utah passed up field goals 3 times in this game to go for it on 4th down, and the Cougars stonewalled them every single time. So in the first quarter, they passed up a 39-yard field goal on a 4th and 1. They did not convert in the first quarter. They passed up a 45-yard field goal in the second quarter on a 4th and 7. Did not convert that either. Passed up a 25-yard field goal on 4th and 3 in the third quarter. Didn't convert that either. Utah has a true freshman kicker right now in Dylan Curtis, who was one of the highest-rated kickers in the country coming out of high school, but he has been a little bit shaky all year. He's outside the top 100 in field goal grade this year among all kickers in the country. Whittingham did not let him attempt a single field goal in this game. And Dalton, you actually pointed this out during the game. He sent him out for a field goal try, I believe on the 4th and 7. And BYU called a timeout, and he missed the practice kick. And then Whittingham said, you know what? No, we're going for it. So I think Whittingham might have got spooked by that right there. So, you know what? We're not letting him kick at all in this game. And I get it. He's a true freshman kicker, but a little bit up and down all year too, in a raucous road environment like that where it's the biggest game of the year for both programs. So I get, thinking he's not ready for the moment, but at least let him try, I think, one of those field goals out there too. It just felt like right there that Whittingham was willing to let him attempt that field goal, and once he missed the practice kick, did not let him kick another ball except for extra points the rest of the game. And again, credit to BYU for standing tall on every single 4th down, it felt like, in this game. Again, 1 for 5 for Utah on 4th down in this one. That, I think, really told the story of this game.
Absolutely. I think that's a big factor. We talked about it with Iowa State and their kicker injuries and the decision tree that goes into this with your kickers. There was actually another game that we're going to talk about right after this that I think the inability to make field goals is big, especially when you're in this tight defensive game. And you knew this BYU-Utah, this was going to be roughly the score. We both had the score right around here. The other way for Utah, yes, but you knew there wasn't going to be many more points scored than there were in this game. And those 3 points, and especially when you're talking about giving them away two, three times, multiple times, that's a huge difference, right? And if you're a coach and you feel like you're handcuffed by a poor kicker situation, this is what can happen. And then in a game like this where you go, man, even if I had 2 out of those 3 field goals, I win.
Yeah,
I win the ball game. I mean, it's that simple. So, no, you're right. It makes a huge difference. And for BYU to stand up to a very physical team and a team that ran the ball well all night in Utah, again, their defense, they just come through when it matters most, and that's big time.
Yeah, I just wish Whittingham, at least on like the 4th and 7, like even try it. Just see if he makes it or not. Like, I know he missed the practice kick, but like let him see if and I know he's been up and down all year, but he was a highly rated kid coming out of high school.
Well, and look, if they now have 2 losses in the Big 12, right? And there's 2 undefeated teams, including BYU at the top, right? If Utah wants to get back in this race, that's going to come up again. And that kid's going to have to make a big kick. We will see if it happens. You get a handful, probably at least a half dozen teams every year that that go, boy, I wish they had a kicker. I wish we had a kicker, and we would be just fine. But that's the nature of college football sometimes too. You know what? Just about every team in the NFL's got a good kicker, and if you don't, you're cutting them in a week. You're cutting them that week. We've seen that a couple of times this year. But college football, if you don't have a kicker, it changes a lot. It really does, and that you could feel it with some of these decisions for Utah here.
What is the most impressive part of BYU's win?
Yeah, I mean, the defensive effort all the way around was really good, but let me credit a guy who we weren't even sure was going to play coming into this game, the linebacker number 17, Jack Kelly. I mean, we weren't sure he was going to come in and play. He was such an essential part. I had mentioned that linebackers were going to be a huge part of this game, and credit to him. He walks in there. He plays almost every snap. He plays off the edge sometimes. He's their highest-graded run defender in this game, a 76.6 run defense grade, 4 stops, big sack that sealed the game late in the fourth quarter. One of that 4th and 3 stop that you mentioned in the third quarter, that was Jack Kelly getting to Devin Dampier in time before he broke the chains there. I mean, he just this group of linebackers they have, when you talk about Kelly and Isaiah Glasker and Siani Acera, I would argue that's the best part of their defense. It's just having those guys. But Kelly was such a big factor. When you talk about a guy who can chase a mobile quarterback like Devin Dampier, who can get off the edge and rush the passer and do so many different things. Again, we weren't sure he was going to play in this game. The Cougars are sure happy that he did.
Yeah, absolutely. He was outstanding, and I want to shout out the guys right behind him, too, the BYU safeties in this one with a 91.2 coverage grade combined for BYU safeties in Faletau Satuala and Tanner Wall. Satuala with an 89.5 grade, Wall with an 89 coverage grade. In this one, Satuala had a coverage stop and a forced incompletion, while Tanner Wall had an interception in this one too, and both had a coverage stop as well. So BYU safeties were outstanding. Really, BYU's entire middle of their defense was outstanding. We knew BYU's linebackers were the heart and soul of their defense with Jack Kelly and Isaiah Glasker and other guys like Sarah too, had another good game at linebacker. But these safeties for BYU, like I said, a 91.3 coverage grade combined for both of BYU safeties in this game. Just a great effort by Satu Wall and Tanner Wall, the two highest graded players for BYU in this game.
Yeah, the interception from Tanner Wall really seemed to I think that was the play where you looked at and you go, oh boy, look, BYU is they're gonna find a way to win this game, right? I mean, the deep ball from Dampier and Tanner Wall going up high pointing that interception, just a terrific play. I mean, and it feels like every week it's, again, and that's the theme of BYU. Every week on defense especially, it's somebody different. It's Jack Kelly. It's Glasker. It's Tanner Wall. One week it'll be Evan Johnson, the corner. It could be Siani Asera like last week with Kelly out. I mean, it's just somebody different every week, and they have such, again, aside from maybe the pass rush, which it kind of comes and goes, but especially in the back seven, this is a complete defense that it's very hard to make big plays against.
Definitely. So massive win for BYU, taking down Utah 24-21. BYU continues their undefeated season so far this year. All right, next up, we have an overtime game, a double overtime game. Number 16, Missouri beating Auburn 23-17 in double overtime. Let's go over the highest graded player, starting off with the Missouri Tigers. Highest graded player for Missouri was linebacker Tristan Newson, 87.2. Another linebacker here, Josiah Trotter, 80.8. Donovan Olugbode, the wide receiver, 73.8. Zion Young, who was talking a lot of trash at the overtime coin toss, and he backed it up with a massive sack in overtime, 73.7 grade for him. Dre Norwood, the corner, 70.2. And Bo Perbula with a solid 76.8 grade for Missouri. Now let's go over to Auburn with their highest graded players in the loss. Linebacker Robert Woodyard Jr., 86.1. Cornerback Kayan Lee, 74.7. Linebacker Xavier Atkins, 73.7. Defensive tackle Malik Blockton, 71.9. Defensive tackle Bobby Jamison Travis, 71. And the highest graded offensive player was Jackson Arnold with a 78.8 grade. And Dalton, if you don't mind, I'm going to actually dive into that real quickly.
Feel free.
Because Auburn, for what feels like the first time all year, let down Jackson Arnold. It usually has been the other way around with Auburn, with Jackson Arnold kind of letting down the entire offense. Auburn, outside of Jackson Arnold in this game, had a 56.1 offensive grade. Their running backs, receivers, tight ends, and offensive linemen combined for a 56.1 offensive line grade. This game looked a lot like last year's Oklahoma's problems, where we thought Jackson Arnold was getting let down by the Oklahoma supporting cast, and they were really bad last year. This is what it looked like last night for Auburn, because their supporting cast really let them down in this game. And credit to Missouri for their pass rush, their run defense, and their coverage unit for really stepping up against them. But Jackson Arnold had the best passing grade of his career at 89.8, but Auburn had 5 drops in this game too. 2 of his 4 big-time throws from Jackson Arnold were dropped by his receivers too, and only a 55.9 pass blocking grade by Auburn. So credit to Jackson Arnold, because we actually, in the preview, Dalton, we talked about how Arnold was letting the entire team down. He did not in this game. So credit to him, because he actually was the driving force for Auburn's offense. But this time, his receiving core and his offensive line failed him. So again, major credit to Missouri's secondary and pass rush for stepping up in this one. But Auburn, it felt like, just wasted a career night from Jackson Arnold.
I think if you're an Auburn fan, shout out Zach Tantillo, you gotta feel like, just what do we have to do to get a win?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the Oklahoma referee controversy, the Georgia controversy with the sneak. I mean, Texas A&M, they just couldn't find any points in a low-scoring game, and now this game, the way this went. And look, you have a team whose offense has been struggling now for the better part of a month, right? And you don't have much room for error. And the other thing, and this was a problem. You talk about kicker problems, and you talk about this. Auburn had a big issue kicking last year. Obviously, it's great to see Alex McPherson on the field just after all the health issues he went through, and the fact that he's out there is great to see. But it really hurt him, the 3 missed field goals in this game. Right, a 40-yarder before halftime could have tied the game. A 38-yarder just after halftime could have tied the game, and then look, a 50-yarder that fell short in overtime. And then they were lucky Missouri missed their field goal too, and this game just got wild all the way around with special teams errors all the way around. I mean, Missouri, this felt like once you got it late in the fourth quarter and into overtime, this felt like neither team wanted to win. Honestly, Bo Prabula with the late interception late in the fourth quarter, and he was solid at times, but there was other moments where it wasn't great for Prabula. This eventually just felt like two teams missing so many opportunities to win a game. And Auburn, again, 6-point game. Eventually it ended up a 6-point game, but you talk about 3 missed field goals, and any one of them in regulation or in the first overtime could have made a difference. I think Auburn right now, they got to be feeling just a little bit cursed, I think, because they've had opportunities really to win all of these games, right? And they've just come out on the short end of it. So it's tough. And honestly, I'll skip to my most impressive real quick. The one consistent thing they've had all year is their run defense. And in this game, their run defense was more than good enough to win. 91.2 run defense grade. Now they're second behind Texas Tech in the country with a 94 run D grade for the season. 37 design carries for Missouri, 81 yards.
Against Ahmad Hardy.
And this Missouri. Line too, this was arguably the best rushing team in the country coming into this game. And they gave up on design runs 2.2 yards per carry. I mean, that's everything you could ask for, and your quarterback played great. And Jackson Arnold was really good. It just speaks to it. Look, in the SEC against these good teams, I even mentioned it against somebody like Notre Dame, you got to play all 60 minutes, and you need you need to be firing on all cylinders, and there just has yet to be a game, maybe week 1 against Baylor. That's probably the only one. There's just yet to be a game in SEC play where Auburn has been firing on. It's the defense is great. Offense can't score. We can't throw the ball. We're running the ball great, taking too many sacks. The referees and just everything else. It's tough. It is tough right now in Auburn because it feels like almost the football gods or something conspiring against them that they just can't get out of any of these games with a win.
If you told me Jackson Arnold would have a career-high passing grade and their run D would be that good, I would say Auburn would win this game. So credit to Missouri for just figuring out a way to win, even with both those factors in this one. But yeah, I mean, it just feels like Auburn just offensively wasted a career night from Jackson Arnold. Really, honestly. So.
And it's, I mean, you're 3-4 now. Obviously, you're looking to just rebound and make a bowl game at this point. You're not going to compete in the SEC with 4 losses, but. It's tough because there were a lot higher expectations for Auburn. And on the Missouri side, I know we haven't talked a whole lot about them. They made enough plays to win this game. I'll say it again. How about the game that it sets up against Vanderbilt next week with both of them with just one SEC loss, both of those losses to Alabama. So that just obviously says a lot about Bama winning both of those games. But what a matchup we're going to get next week between those two. I think it's going to be so much fun to watch, and you have so much talent offensively, especially on both those teams.
Good shout out by Kevin Chavez in the chat saying Auburn looks like Nebraska with Scott Frost. They have opportunities in close games, just can't get it done now. That's what it is. I mean, it really is what it is.
It's just it just comes down to those little moments that could turn in your favor, and sometimes things are unlucky, right? The one touchdown against Oklahoma, the did he or didn't he score against Georgia last week. I mean, it is tough. It is really tough when you look at it and you go, it's so close, and yet especially in the SEC, you've got to play all 60 minutes, and in this case, even more than that.
I felt like that Scott Frost era at Nebraska was like every single week is like, how did Nebraska lose that game? Every single week, and it feels the same way for Auburn right now under Hugh Freeze, and Hugh Freeze is getting under pressure. I'll put it that way right now as the head coach at Auburn. I want to shout out, we talk a lot about Auburn right now. Let's talk about Missouri. Their linebackers were incredible in this one. Josiah Trotter, Tristan Newson, both had 80-plus grades in this one. Tristan Newson, 80.9 coverage grade with a stop. Also had 2 pressures and a quarterback hit in this game. Josiah Trotter, 4 run defense stops and a tackle for loss. Also want to shout out Khalil Jacobs at linebacker 2, 73.8 run defense grade, 78.6 combined grade for all the linebackers for Missouri, and they held Auburn to only 178 rushing yards. So they made Auburn rely on Jackson Arnold more as a passer, which usually is the way to completely shut down Auburn's offense. Jackson Arnold just happened to have a career night as a passer, but still was enough for Missouri to win the game too, because their linebackers in the middle of that defense were outstanding.
Yeah, and I didn't have them written down in the sheet necessarily, but I mean, Bo Prabula too, I just want to give him credit for just battling through. It was ugly at times, especially to me, the fourth quarter interception with under 30 seconds left. That was tough, especially when you're just about in winning field goal range there, but he battled, and he had his highest graded game, at least right now. We'll see what it gets on review, but he has highest graded game since the Kansas game. game in week 2, and he had to come up and make just enough plays against this team and against a team that's better than their talent level, against a defense that's really good. Auburn's, at least front seven, is really, really good. It was tough for Missouri to run the football. So Bo made enough plays, and you got the winning touchdown, and you get out of there with a win. And, some weeks you just go, cool, we're out of here. W, we're all good.
All right, so Missouri with a double overtime thrilling victory over Auburn, 23-17. Let's turn back the clock to Friday night once again with Minnesota demolishing number 25 Nebraska, 24-6 on Friday night. Let's go over the highest grade player, starting off with the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Highest grade player was offensive guard Dylan Ray, 78.9. Jayonte McMillan, the cornerback, 75.2. Offensive guard Greg Johnson, 74.8. Linebacker Maverick Baranowski, what a linebacker name right there, 72.8. And what a center name right here, Ashton Beers for Minnesota, 72.4, 99 grade for his name alone, though. Drake Lindsey, 68.4 grade for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Let's go over to Nebraska. Marcus Watson-Trent, their star linebacker, 77.8. Deshaun Singleton, 73.8. Sierra Wright, the cornerback, 72.5. Tight end Luke Lindenmeyer, 70.6. Keona Davis, the D-tackle, 70.2. And Dylan Raiola with a 57.6 grade in the loss. Dalton, what told the story in this Friday night game?
I think it is what has told the story in part for Nebraska in the games that they have struggled this year. Minnesota's run game really controlled the pace of this game, and they could stay patient with their offense, and they didn't need Drake Lindsey, I should say, to go out there and carry them at any point, right? They could just go, okay, hey, we've got Darius Taylor. He's the workhorse. We know he's healthy now. It's good to see him healthy, but you look at the rushing difference. We're taking out sacks because this is the ultimate. Yes, you're going to
we'll talk about it later.
This is the ultimate takeout sacks game when you have actual rushing yards here the way they should be counted. 187 for Minnesota, 99 for Nebraska. Darius Taylor with 147 of those 187. 5.5 yards a carry, 4 explosive runs, including a big 71-yarder early in the game that set up points for Minnesota. This has just been a theme for Nebraska. And you look at the 3 games, that 187 rushing yards, it's only the 3rd highest total they've allowed this year. They allowed even more to Michigan and to Cincinnati. They've now lost 2 of these 3 games. In those 3 games, 56.3 run defense grade. And honestly, I thought if Cincinnati would have just stuck with their run game more than they did throughout that game, I thought Cincinnati would have beaten Nebraska too. So I think this is a legitimate problem. We've seen it in 3 games now. They've lost 2 of them. Nebraska's run defense, they just can't control the pace of games right now against teams that can reasonably run the ball well. So credit Minnesota, balance in their offense. Drake Lindsey obviously didn't make any big mistakes. He was solid enough in this game to get a win. It felt like a Minnesota kind of win, right? Darius Taylor, really good defense. Drake Lindsey gives you enough. I think just a really good effort on their part. And the ability, I think it just starts with Taylor as the engine of their offense to stay balanced and not – because there was weeks when they were asking – when Taylor was hurt, and now we know A.J. Turner's out for the season. They were asking Lindsey just do too much. This is what Minnesota wants it to look like, and they got to play to their identity for 60 minutes here.
Yeah, the reason why we don't count sacks as a part of rushing yards is because Nebraska had, for most people, 36 rushing yards in this game. What did they have total in actual rushing yards? It was like 80-something?
99.
Well, that's because they had 9 sacks in this game.
Yep.
Minnesota, a school record, 9 sacks against Dylan Raiola. And what a performance, because they needed this from their defensive line, because, Dalton, the Golden Gophers were without 2 of their top 3 corners in this game. So they had a very beat-up secondary against a really talented, I still think so, quarterback in Dylan Raiola. He's still a very talented quarterback and still some really good receivers Nebraska has. So just looking at that and looking at what the injuries that Minnesota has in their secondary, you would think that Raiola could have a great game against Minnesota, and he did not, because this pass rush was incredible for the Golden Gophers. 45% pressure rate. Both edge rushers in Carter Menz and Anthony Smith each had 3 sacks. Dylan Raiola was scrambling for his life back there, and because of Minnesota's pass rush, he was trying to play too much hero ball, trying to make too many Patrick Mahomes-esque type plays back there, and really he had to. It wasn't even like he was trying to do it. He had to do it for Nebraska in this game. And ultimately, Nebraska could only score 6 points out there, even with Dylan Raiola's heroics out there, because their offensive line was getting killed, and Minnesota had a school record 9 sacks.
Yeah, I mean, it all goes together, and I think if you're PJ Fleck and you look at your defense at all layers playing the way that they did, the pass rush, obviously, an elite day, maybe the best of any team in the country this week, but then you look at the domino effect that has on the secondary, and you look at these cornerbacks and the way they played. Saquon Bryan, 73.7 coverage grade, allowed 2 catches for 15 yards. Jayonte McMillan, 1 catch allowed for 4 yards. You just look at Nebraska's receivers and you go, the key guys that we thought you were getting. Isaiah Hunter, okay, had 5 catches for 40 yards. Not a whole lot here. Ja'Cory Barney had 1 catch for 1 yard, and Dane Key did not have a catch in this game. The Minnesota corners were just lights out in this game, obviously helped by 9 sacks and the constant pass rush on Dylan Raiola, but really a dominant effort on all sides of the ball. I think if Minnesota was going to draw up a blueprint for how they win games on both sides, it would pretty much look like this game, honestly. And Nebraska, to me, their inability and just inconsistency on offense, especially when it comes to creating explosive plays, that's a problem, and their run defense is a problem. So they only have 2 losses now. They're not dead by any means, but you know what? You got a game against a Northwestern team next week that's kind of surprising right now and has a pretty good defense. They've got to find – it just feels like every time I watch Nebraska, there is not a consistent rhythm on offense. There just isn't until they get in 2 minutes and Raiola can just take the game over. But they got to find this earlier in games, or honestly, they could lose to Northwestern next week, and that'll pretty much end any sort of playoff hope that they would have.
Yeah, absolutely. What was most impressive? So you shout out the Minnesota corners already. I'll shout out the Minnesota offensive line right now, because Nebraska's offensive line obviously struggled, giving up 9 sacks. Minnesota's thrived, though, in this game. 80 pass blocking grade for the offensive line, 0 sacks, and 0 hits allowed on Drake Lindsey. Only a 5% pressure rate allowed by Minnesota on offensive line in this one, too. And a 65.5 run blocking grade is the best by Minnesota against an FBS team all season. 3 of their 5 offensive linemen, you saw on the graphic earlier, they had 70-plus grades in this one, too. Minnesota won this game with physicality on both sides of the ball, and their offensive line was dominant.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All the way around, just a blueprint win for them, and it kind of keeps them at least in the mix. Obviously, another step towards bowl eligibility. They're 5-2 now, and obviously at least keeps you in the mix here if you want to mess around and stay near that, at least in that second level of Big Ten. They got a big game against Iowa next week, too. They got to go to Iowa. That should be a fun one. But Minnesota, really, this is how you draw up a win for them right here. Dominant in the trenches on both sides. Great in the secondary. Balance on offense. And Nebraska's got some soul-searching to do, I think, because they're just right now, they are not a physical enough team. And if you're going to contend in the Big Ten, you got to be better in the trenches than they've been really in all of their big games this year.
Yep. All right, so only a couple more games left in this review. Next up, we got number 12 Georgia Tech beating Duke 27-18. Georgia Tech 7-0 for the first time since 1966. Been nearly 60 years since Georgia Tech was 7-0, and they are this year. Let's go over the highest grade player, starting off with the Yellow Jackets. Their highest grade player was defensive tackle Matthew Alexander, 71.3. Taj Butler, the linebacker, 70.9. Jai Gilmore, the corner, 70.5. D tackle Jason Moore, 69.9. Jamal Haynes, 69.7. The actual highest grade player was their quarterback, Haynes King, 85.7. Let's go over to Duke with their highest grade players in the loss. Cooper Barkate with a career day, 87.3 grade for the wide receiver. Chandler Rivers, the corner, 72 grade. Your guy, Dalton, right here. Nate Shepard, the true freshman running back, 71.4. Landon King, the tight end, 71.4. Jaden Francois, the linebacker, 71.2. And Darian Menso with a solid 76.4 grade in the loss. What told the story for you in this game?
Actually, you want to go first, because I think this goes a bit in sequence here, and I think it's going to start with what you have and just another game here with Duke and their missed opportunities.
Yeah, so Duke in the red zone. They had 5 trips to the red zone in this game, and Duke outscored the Yellow Jackets 18-7 on those 5 trips. And why are you saying, wait a minute, how did Georgia Tech scored? Well, on the 1-yard line, Duke fumbled the ball, and Georgia Tech returned it for a touchdown right there. So missed opportunities by Duke, I should say. The very next possession after that fumble for a touchdown, Duke botched a 39-yard field goal attempt on the 12-yard line. Then later on, they're going to go for it on 4th and goal from the 1-yard line later in the third quarter, but they had an illegal substitution penalty that backed them up, and they had to kick a field goal after that too. So, and also after that too, Duke missed a 46-yard field goal later on in the game. Just so many mistakes for Duke, which has really plagued their season and why they've lost 3 games, I believe, so far too. And again, credit to Georgia Tech for taking advantage of those mistakes and forcing those mistakes too, including the biggest play of the game with the 95-yard fumble return for a touchdown too. But Georgia Tech played clean football in this game. Duke did not, and that's been the story of Duke's season so far.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. In big games they've played in, the Illinois game, the Tulane game, and now this one, Duke's hurt themselves. They've hurt themselves with turnovers. There's no question about it. I mean, then you talk about botching a field goal, that costs you 3 points. The substitution, like you mentioned, that costs you probably 4 points, right? I mean, you just think about the opportunities they're leaving out there, because for at least 2, if not 3/4 of this game, you felt like, man, they're really dominating. If you just didn't look at the scoreboard and just look at how both teams, especially the offense and Darian Mensah, were playing, you go, they're dominating this football game. Cooper Barcade's unstoppable. The passing game's getting going. The run game is solid enough. You know, they've gotten better with that in recent weeks. And then you do all of that, and you leave the door open. And you leave the door open for a team in Georgia Tech who's as opportunistic as any in the country. And look, you go into the fourth quarter, and all of this happens. And Duke, you feel like they're playing so well. And Georgia Tech really hardly had the ball through 3 quarters. They hardly even had the football, and yet it's 10-10. And so what happens? Haynes King, you give him a chance. You give Haynes King a pulse, he's going to come out and kill you. You look at this Georgia Tech fourth quarter offensively. Entered it 10-10, scored 17 points, an 80 team offensive grade, 213 net yards in the fourth quarter. They only had 178 in the first 3 quarters and 6 explosive plays in the fourth quarter alone. It's been shown time and again. Georgia Tech, it was the Colorado game when they were down early in their own turnovers. It was the Clemson game when Clemson couldn't put them away. Now it's this game. Georgia Tech, if they're behind, but if they're in a 1-score game and Haynes King can continue to do things as a dual threat player, they're going to find a way to beat you because they're experienced winning these big games now. And I think Duke, it's really hurt them this year in multiple big games that they have made their share of mistakes. And Georgia Tech usually is not a team that makes those same mistakes. And if they're in the ball game, they're going to find a way to beat you.
Yeah. So if you go perfect in the red zone in 5 opportunities, you would score 35 points. Duke scored half that. They scored 18 points and also let up 7 points in the red zone.
And 8 of them were a touchdown when the game was pretty much it was over. So I mean, you just look at the again, it just feels like deja vu with Duke is that they got a really talented football team on both sides of the ball. Their offense is awesome. Yeah. But in the biggest moments of these games, the Illinois game and this game especially, they just don't take advantage of the opportunities that talent gives them.
So I'll let you do your most impressive after. I want to get to mine real quickly, though, because Haynes King, I will say it right now, this is the Diego Pavia of the ACC right now.
Yep.
This guy, what he is doing for this program is unfreaking believable. And like Diego Pavia, he is the heart and soul of this Georgia Tech program right now. 116 rushing yards and a touchdown on the ground. The next leading rusher was Jamal Haynes with only 29 yards on the ground. Also, an 86.7 passing grade, threw for 204 yards, 1 big-time throw, no turnover-worthy plays, and a 79% adjusted completion percentage. His 81% adjusted completion rate, which again, your completion rate plus any drops your receivers have, that's 4th among all quarterbacks in the country this season. He's the leader of this Georgia Tech team, who is 7-0 for the first time in nearly 60 years. And as long as Georgia Tech does not have a major screw-up the rest of the year, they probably will go to the college football playoff. They could even lose. They could lose to Georgia and the ACC title game and still probably get in. That's a lot like what SMU did last year, going 11-2 and making the playoff. Georgia Tech, if they at least win the rest of their ACC slate, which they should on paper, and even if they lose to Georgia and the ACC title game, Georgia Tech still probably will go to the playoff this year.
On paper being what it is, but their last 4 ACC games are Syracuse, NC State, Boston College, Pitt. And they should be favored in all 4 of those games. Pitt's been better lately with Mason Hyde still in there. NC State's got a dangerous offense, and that's on the road. There's 2 games, Cuse and BC. I would expect them to be heavily favored. Yeah. I mean, Georgia Tech this season, the way these games this Duke game was huge. The Clemson game, getting that win was huge. We saw them obviously get a big out of conference when they were behind against Colorado early. This team is set up right now. They are set up as well as any team in the country to make a playoff run. And let's be real, the way they played Georgia last year, and now that this year they're going to be at home, that game will be in Atlanta. that is not a given for the Georgia Bulldogs.
No, it's not.
I guarantee Georgia will be favored because that's just how these things go. But Georgia Tech can absolutely beat them. They proved that last year that they're a threat to them.
And how about this? I mean, shout out to Haynes King, obviously. Also, shout out to his head coach, Brent Key, what he's doing with that program, too. Because before he was hired, he was actually an assistant coach under Jeff Collins, the previous head coach. Jeff Collins went 3-9, 3-7, 3-9. Started off 1-3. Brent Key took over midway through the season and went 4-4 after that. Then after that, 7-6, 7-6, 7-0 right now. What he is doing at that program, immediately turning it around from a program under Jeff Collins that was going 3-9 basically every single year, and now all of a sudden they're a playoff contender a few years in, and they made 2 bowl games last year after not making a bowl game since 2018. I mean, it's just incredible what Brent Key is doing at that program right now.
Oh, it's unreal. I admire their ability, especially when you talk about some of those close games they've been in the past that they lost, even like last year's Georgia game or something like that, where you go, they are so battle tested. Right? And the only thing really sometimes I worry about with this Georgia Tech team is when they lean on Haynes King so heavily, and they didn't have to do it so much in this game, but when they leaned on Haynes King so heavily and he's hands on hips and he looks like he's out there at 75% and he's wearing down, sometimes I'm like, man, I wish this team could get an easy game just to give him a break, right? But I mean, that's the one thing is he's going to try to will him through in the same way like you mentioned that Diego Pavia does for Vanderbilt. So no, they've got an inside track right now, and it's about taking care of business, and I think Brent Key knows, hey, 1 week at a time. All right, good win, flush this one. We got Syracuse next week. Sorry. So I mean, just kind of that thing. It doesn't get any easier up there, but I think they're so well coached and they know who they are, and that's such a big part that I think we see with a lot of teams that we're talking about today.
And also, I'm not saying he deserves to be in New York or anything like that, but I do think Haynes King should get mentioned more often for Heisman conversation.
I think
probably top 10.
We mentioned a lot of guys the other day for Coach of the Year. Why is Brent Key not in there?
Sure.
I mean, if they run the table, let's just say they mess around and beat Georgia and they're 12-0 or 13-0.
Absolutely.
Why not Brent Key for Coach of the Year? Absolutely.
Yeah. Incredible job by Georgia Tech, just taking advantage of Duke's mistakes, though. 27-18 final score, and they are continuing their undefeated season right now. The first 7-0 start since in about 59 years, I should say, doing quick math right there. All right. Final of our game reviews. We have Michigan taking down Washington 24-7. Let's go over the highest grade player, starting off with the Michigan Wolverines. Highest grade player was Derek Moore, 92.7 grade for the star edge rusher. Linebacker Jimmy Rolder, 81.5. Another linebacker here, Ernest Hausman, 80.2. Tight end Zach Marshall, 77.8. And running back Jordan Marshall, 75.1. And Bryce Underwood with an incredible 83.7 grade in the win for the true freshman quarterback. Let's go over to Washington with their highest graded players in the loss. Takario Davis, the cornerback, 75.5. Running back Jonah Coleman, 75.3. Devin Bryant, the linebacker, 72.8. Ontario Thompson, the D tackle, 71.7. Safety Alex McLaughlin, 66.8. And DeMond Williams with only a 55.6 grade in the loss for the Huskies. Dalton, what told the story for you?
Michigan's defense really just clamped down in the second half. And I mean, this game was 7-7 for a lot of it, but Washington, they just couldn't find a consistent rhythm in the second half of this game. Did not score in the second half. 48.7 team offense grade, only 62 net yards in the second half of this game. And DeMond Williams, look, I think this came down to a lot of it. 2 quarterbacks in a big game against a conference opponent. One kept his composure and one didn't. DeMond Williams, 29.7 passing grade in the second half with 3 interceptions. And I get it. He was pressured on 9 out of his 15 dropbacks. Derek Moore and that Michigan defensive line really took this game over as it went on. And you just felt like the turnovers are one thing, but even before then, it started to feel like, do they have the answers for this right now? And it's the part where you're going to look at them and go, look, can they beat? And they got another big game against Illinois next week. Can they beat a team with a top 20 type defense like Michigan? We saw them really get shut down. There was a few good plays, but we really get shut down against Ohio State, who's doing that to everybody, yes. But these are the moments for DeMond Williams where I think you talk about the maturation sometimes through the losses and you go, okay, got to get better. Got to get better. Got to lead this team against better defenses like a Michigan, like an Ohio State. If you want to compete at the top of the Big Ten, this is the type of competition you're dealing. And it's the whole team. It's not just Williams. Obviously, he eventually cracked with the interceptions, but got to run the ball better. Offensive line got to be better in pass protection all the way around. Michigan's defense held firm in this game throughout, and eventually Washington started making mistakes up front and in the passing game on offense.
And the Huskies only had 64 rushing yards in this game. I mentioned in the preview how Michigan had a top 5 run defense grade in the country, but they'd be tested more than ever before this week against Washington with Damon Williams and, of course, Jonah Coleman there, and they passed that test with flying colors. Damon Williams, the really mobile quarterback who has often drawn comparisons to like another Kyler Murray-esque type of quarterback, 3 carries for 5 yards for Damon Williams in this game. And that doesn't even include sacks either. So 3 carries for 5 yards when he actually ran the ball for Washington. Jonah Coleman, 16 carries for 50 yards in this one. Michigan only missed 2 tackles all game against 2 guys in Damon Williams and Jonah Coleman that can really force a lot of missed tackles. Only 2 missed tackles and an 80.7 run defense grade with 9 stops as well. They made Damon Williams try to win as a drop back passer. That is not his game. So an outstanding job by Michigan's run defense, which has shown, I think is proven so far, it is one of the elite run defenses that we have in college football.
There's one bit of tape that Wink Martindale needed to watch, and that was the Ohio State tape. In Washington's 5 wins, Williams averages 91 rushing yards per game. In the 2 losses to Ohio State and to Michigan, 10 carries. Only 10 carries, which is another thing. It's just preventing him and on the read option, sitting out. Let him hand it off to Coleman. Like, Jonah Coleman's really good.
And rushing with lane integrity, too. They do that a lot.
Absolutely. In both cases, 10 carries, 23 yards total in their 2 losses. That's the blueprint, is you keep him in the pocket, you make him hand it off on read option. Jonah Coleman's really good, but he's more of a keep you on schedule, physical type of back. Williams is actually their most explosive runner, just not happening in these 2 games. And I think that's a big factor going forward is for Washington. How do we adjust from that? What if they take his legs away? What do we do to counteract that? Because in 2 games where the defense has taken away his legs, it's been a real problem, and they just haven't been able to put up points.
So what was the most impressive part of this one for Michigan?
Give me the other quarterback, Bryce Underwood. I'm going to tell you something. There are moments, and honestly, throughout this entire game where I just go, look, you got Andrew Marsh on the outside, the true freshman who's really starting to emerge. Michigan's always got good tight ends that can run the football. Boy, get this guy a couple more in the portal in the offseason, please, because you look at the throws he's making. 89.1 passing grade, 21 to 27, 230, 3 big-time throws against the blitz, especially in this game when Washington tried to heat him up. 7 of 9, 2 touchdowns, 93.5 passing grade. Bryce Underwood, boy, it's in there. It's right there, right in front of us. Michigan has a great quarterback. Got to see it every week, obviously. And, is Washington the best defense they're going to play? No, but it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, to tear him up like that, and there was a couple of big-time throws that weren't caught that I was just like, the way he can rip the ball down the seam, especially in this offense, boy, oh boy. Bryce, it's coming. Just please get this guy like 1 or 2 more weapons at wide receiver in the portal. Andrew Marsh is going to be a stud. That's all they're missing. That to me, this Michigan team, this offense is all they're missing because he makes some throws, and at the tempo and the pace and timing that he makes those throws, I mean, he's going to be one of those ones.
Yeah,
it's coming. This is just one of those. I think this is really the first game against a Power 4 team where you could really see that through a whole game. He was outstanding. I know it was 24-7. It doesn't seem flashy, and obviously Williams helped him out with the turnovers, but Underwood was just outstanding.
And you mentioned throwing those balls up the seams in the middle of the field. You see so many young quarterbacks in college and in the NFL be afraid to throw over the middle of the field. Bryce Underwood is not afraid. He is ripping balls up the seams right now. So he is extremely talented. Just got to get more receivers around him right now, but there is no doubt that this guy will be a star in college football. I want to shout out a current star as well in college football. That is Derek Moore, who I had as a top 10 edge rusher in the country entering the year. Proved why in this game. 2 sacks, 4 pressures on 19 pass rush snaps against Washington, 92.5 pass rush grade. Also had a really solid 66.5 run defense grade. He was a menace as a pass rusher, and like I mentioned before, rushed with lane integrity so that Damon Williams could not escape the pocket and make magic happen with his legs like he often does for Washington. Again, showed why he was a top 10 edge rusher in the country for me entering the year.
No, absolutely. I mean, he's just been outstanding. I think 2 big games where he's really come up big for you. This one and the Nebraska game. He was just outstanding. And look, is he going to do it maybe every single week? No, but he is one of the best pass rushers in the country. 91.6 pass rush grade this year. Just a guy who, when you need it most, gets that consistent pressure. So, no, Moore's outstanding. The pass rush really came on the second half of this game, and the entire defense really was just terrific for Michigan.
Absolutely. So that wraps up our reviews with Michigan beating Washington 24-7. Still have more to go in the show, though. We still have the standouts of the week and the brand new PFF Top 25 going into Week 9 of college football. Before we get to that, though, got to talk about Fabric by Gerber Life. Parenting is filled with high-pressure decisions, and it can be difficult to tell if we've made the right choice for our kids' future. But here's a simple decision that you can make today that can have a meaningful impact on your kids' future, and that's opening a UGMA Kids investment account with Fabric to start their investment journey early and give them a financial head start. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a kids investment account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. Kids can't invest when they're minors, but a UGMA Kids investment account allows you to invest on their behalf now, giving those investments more time to grow. There are no contribution limits, multiple tax advantages, and they're SIPC insured up to $500,000. Plus, no commission fees and it's a low, flat monthly maintenance fee. Fabric has partnered with Gerber Life, trusted by millions of families like yours for over 50 years. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. That's meetfabric.com/PFFcollege, meetfabric.com/PFFcollege. This is a paid promotion for the Fabric UGMA product and not for investment advisory services. Portfolios are managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Custodial services provided by Apex Clear Corporation. All investing is at risk. Terms may apply. Learn more at meetfabric.com. All right, Dalton, standouts of the week. 3 players that stood out outside of, the 11 games that we reviewed today.
Yep.
Who was your biggest standout of the week?
There was so many throughout the country, but I just, look, they're the number 1 team in the country. They got an easy win over Wisconsin. I just can't take my eyes off Julian Sayin, man. He doesn't miss. And look, Wisconsin, they're not good. Everybody knew Ohio State was winning. They can't score, the whole thing. Wisconsin's secondary is probably the best part of their team.
Yep.
Right? Their defense is not atrocious. They just get put in a lot of bad spots by their offense. Julian Sayin, casual, 91.6 passing grade, 36 for 42. 36 for 42. I mean, when we say he's the most accurate quarterback in the country, that's just what it is. He is unbelievable. 394 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 big-time throws. Here's the 6 incompletions. 1 was batted down at the line. 1 he was hit as he was throwing. 3 of them were deep one-on-one shots to Jeremiah Smith. You take those chances. And 1 of them, there was like 1 5-yard out on an RPO that he just missed. He just doesn't miss. He's got an 85.5% adjusted completion rate this year. He's the most accurate quarterback in the country. It's not even argument. You can see him making plays outside the pocket, on the move, on the bootlegs. I'm telling you right now, and I know there are times when you've got a quarterback playing well with a loaded group of weapons. Obviously, got freaks out there at receiver. We know, but there's times where you can see the difference between, okay, you got a quarterback getting carried here, but no. This is not a carrying thing. This is not Jeremiah and Carnell just like, oh, we got a young quarterback.
No, they're elevating each other right now.
They're elevating each other. And I don't even know how you stop this. If he's going to keep throwing like Drew Brees, I don't know how you stop the Julian Sayin at this point. He's not just really good. It feels like he's unfair at this point. He walked into this game. They basically, and they didn't even run the ball that much. They used this game against a pretty good secondary intentionally as essentially a practice. And just said, Julian, you're going to drop back 45 times today because we feel like it. We know we're winning. You're going to get reps against a defense that gives you a lot of different looks. Just carved him up.
Yep.
Like it was nothing. He's unreal. For a redshirt freshman to be throwing the ball the way he's throwing it, and he's in the Heisman race, there is a real chance he wins it. He's off the charts.
I would say he's the Heisman favorite right now. I think he's the best quarterback in college football. We had him win the Davey O'Brien Award going into the week after our midseason, and he showed why in that game right there. And yes, Ohio State's kind of hasn't had to throw that often, which is why his numbers might not be as gaudy as some other quarterbacks in the country, but what he's doing efficiency-wise is the best in the nation by a mile. He is the best quarterback in college football, in my opinion. Dalton, I told you a few days ago, I turned on Julian Sayin's key plays in Ultimate, which key plays, if you don't know, are basically any plays that we grade as positive or negative. So I turned on his entire tape, essentially. What do we grade as positive and negative? I felt like I was watching a highlight reel. I was like, where are the negative plays for Julian Saint? It literally was every single throw I watched. It was like 90 plays. And I would say like 75 of the 90 were positive plays. I mean, I'm not saying he's at this level yet, but I got like very like memories of like Joe Burrow throwing to Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson at LSU. Like, that's what he has right now in two studs in Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. And the accuracy, like Burrow in that 2019 season, was unfreaking believable, man. What Julian Saint is doing right now is special stuff, and he still has one more year of college football after this year, too.
Oh, no, he's I mean, the names that we're bringing up, I would argue when he's healthy that Burrow is the most accurate quarterback in the NFL. I would argue that Drew Brees is the most accurate quarterback of all time. So we're making lofty comparisons, but that's the best way we can put it. He does not miss. I'm actually pulling this up for you right now. How many plays this season? This season, 67 positive grades, 21 negatives. Yeah. In 7 games. So you're talking about think about it that way. He misses 3 throws a game.
Yeah.
That's silly. That's just, I don't even know. I mean, he's going to keep tearing up teams that they're better than. We'll get to the Michigan game when we get there, but he's unbelievable. They can win a national title. They're the best team in the country, and it's in big part because of him. It's not the wide receivers carrying him, and there are a couple of freaks out there with Smith and Tate, but they're making it look casual right now. They're the best team in college football right now.
No, that's why, like I said, when I was watching his tape, again, I'm not saying he's as good as Joe Burrow was in 2019, not yet at least, but what he's doing with those two receivers, it felt so reminiscent of like, okay, yeah, Burrow had 2 elite receivers. Burrow also had the greatest passing season of all time. Julian Saint, it feels like he's doing like similar stuff with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell.
Oh no, you know what I'll say, because I think the one thing that would detract anybody from him right now is you'd go, okay, he doesn't have an A+ arm, and he'll never have like a Lenore Sellers arm or something like that. Wait till he gets in the weight room.
Yeah,
because he's not even fully built.
And neither does Joe Burrow either. Who cares?
Well, right, and Joe Burrow, it's been documented that he got stronger when he got into the NFL, and his arm, when healthy, is better than ever. Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I'm with you. That doesn't matter.
Oh, he's a 19-year-old kid. Give it time. Yeah.
If you've got a B+, A- arm, you can win in the NFL. Wait till this kid gets in the weight room.
Yeah.
It's unfair now. Just wait. No, he's unbelievable.
So QB1, I would say pretty clearly in the 2027 NFL draft is Julian Saint. A guy who might be QB1 in the 2026 NFL draft is Dante Moore, the quarterback for Oregon. Oregon was out for blood this week after losing to Indiana at home last week. They beat Rutgers soundly, 56-10 final score in that one. And Dante Moore was back to his usual self with a 92.8 passing grade, 5 big-time throws, no turnover-worthy plays, and 4 touchdown passes. I believe he had 1 interception, but it was not a turnover-worthy play. So Dante Moore was near perfect in this game against Rutgers.
Yeah, he sure was. I mean, that's how you want to bounce back, especially you think about Rutgers' team with a pretty good offense that can be dangerous, Calic Manis and those guys, and you're taking that long East Coast trip, and, you know, obviously you feel better about it being a night game if you're Oregon as opposed to playing at noon Eastern, but no, Oregon, they bounced back in a big way, and I think that was big for them to just get back on the horse. Yeah, it was a tough loss to Indiana, but they still understand that they're in a playoff race. Even if they end up in 3rd place in the Big Ten, they got a shot to go 11-1 here. If they do that, they're a lock for a playoff spot. If not, if they're 11-1, probably a home playoff game too.
Yeah. What was your next standout of the week?
Talk about a game we previewed. We're not reviewing today. It was kind of a blowout, and we had a lot of other upsets and things to get to. But how about what Boise State did to UNLV, 49-24, and Dylan Riley? You know, we talked about UNLV's run defense. Not great. This is where, I guess not great is probably an understatement. This is where Boise really had an advantage. Dylan Riley, 15 carries, 201 yards, and a touchdown. 5 forced missed tackles there and 15 carries. That's pretty good. I mean, we got at least half the shootout. We thought we were getting up there in Boise, and UNLV, the lack of run defense, it was a struggle. I mean, you could feel, and it was back and forth for a while. Anthony Calandria was keeping UNLV in the game, but at the end of the day, Boise, anytime they wanted, they could just hand the ball off to Dylan Riley, and he was going to make a big play happen. I mean, 15 carries for 200, more than 13 yards of carries, ridiculous. Not much else needs to be said about that. UNLV, maybe they can turn around and run the table and still be in that playoff mix in the group of 5, but they need to get a lot better on defense, or they're just not even going to have that shot.
Do you want one more ridiculous Julian Saint stat right now?
Absolutely.
So the 5 greatest seasons of all time in college football in terms of completion percentage. Number 5, Joe Burrow, 2019, 76.3. Number 4, Colt McCoy in 2008, 76.7. Number 3, Mac Jones in 2020, 77.4. Number 2, Bo Nix, 77.4 in 2023. And currently number 1 by almost 3 percentage points is Julian Sain, 80%.
80.
If he stays at that, that's the all-time record by a lot.
80, and an adjusted at 85.5. I think even the adjusted Bo Nix a couple years ago was at 82 or so.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about the most accurate quarterbacks, and our quarterback charting, we won't have it done today. It'll be done in the next couple of days. Our quarterback charting with the ball placement, last I checked, he was 5% ahead of anybody else.
Yep.
It's not fair.
At this pace, if he stays at 80 right now, that'd be 2.5 points better than the all-time record right now by Bo Nix and Mac Jones. So just, again, Heisman, give that guy some more Heisman love right now, please. Julian Sain, I think, should be the favorite right now, but he's getting more, but he should be getting even more than that. All right, my number 2 is another superstar, Colin Simmons, the edge rusher for Texas. 89 pass rush grade, and Texas's very close overtime win over Kentucky. 3 sacks for Colin Simmons and 5 pressures on 34 snaps. And really quietly so far this year, Dalton, and I've mentioned before to you, like I haven't really heard Colin Simmons' name a lot this year. Well, it's probably because I haven't paid enough attention, because he has an 89.6 pass rush grade in the season so far as a sophomore. So he's showing why he's the number 1 edge in the country for me entering the year, and another great game against Kentucky.
Well, I mean, all the spotlight's been on Arch Manning and the offensive struggles, which continued last night for sure. I mean, Simmons played a big part in the defensive role. Ryan Niblett, the punt returner, came through again with a big play to set up Texas' only touchdown of the night. I thought the play, we almost did review that game, probably would have had Texas lost. The play, Kentucky's last play of the night, when Jelani McDonald made that play on the sneak coming around the edge, that was big time. Now, Texas defense is giving them a pulse. Got to find it offensively, but Colin Simmons, I mean, we know he's a freak. It's like, even if he got off to a little bit of a slow start, we know what that guy's going to do over the course of a season. He's another one. 2027, here we come.
Who was your final standout of the week?
All right, we had another big upset. That we had so many games here that we didn't necessarily get to cover in full, but look at the UAB Blazers. Fresh off firing Trent Dilfer, Alex Mortensen, son of legendary ESPN reporter Chris Mortensen, the interim head coach. The 2 biggest upsets of the season, Max, have been 2 teams, UCLA and UAB, in their first game with an interim coach. Give me their wide receiver, Iverson Hooks, 94 receiving grade, 10 catches, 164 yards, 3 touchdowns, 6 explosive plays, 2 contested catches, forced to 1 missed tackle. You get a big performance like this against a ranked team in Memphis who was rolling, and maybe trap game looking ahead to USF next week, maybe a little bit of a trap game looking ahead, looking forward to College game day, all that stuff. Memphis came out and got punched in the mouth. And the biggest reason was Iverson Hooks there on the outside, just dominating. He was uncoverable in this game. Just unbelievable catches, plays after the catch, everything that he did. And look, it went down to the wire. UAB's defense kept Memphis in it all the way down to the last play. But there's all of a sudden some very real concern with Memphis, because obviously they're going to be unranked now. They're not going to be ranked. Now they got an injury to Brendan Lewis that we don't know how serious that is. It looked like a leg injury. He took on a sack that didn't look great. And they got to play the raging hot USF Bulls next week. And that's a huge game when it comes to the picture of the American. And if they lose to USF, you went from Memphis being ranked in the top 25 to, well, they might be about done here, right, in a span of 2 weeks. So Memphis has to bounce back. But big credit to Alex Mortensen and Iverson Hooks and everybody at UAB who pulled off such a big upset amongst so much turmoil.
Yeah, Alex Mortensen, like you mentioned, the son of legendary reporter Chris Mortensen, who unfortunately passed away last year. And Adam Schefter had a great tweet even before the game, Dalton, that Alex Mortensen's making his debut as a head coach on ESPN2, the same channel his dad was on for so many years, too, which is such an awesome story. And for UAB, who was really down in the dumps, and they fired Trent Dilfer, they promoted a head coach in Alex Mortensen, interim head coach, and getting a win like that over a top 25 team in Memphis, an undefeated Memphis team, really cool for Alex Mortensen to do that, and really cool for him to do it on the same channel that featured his dad for so many years in Chris Mortensen.
Absolutely, and one more guy to credit here. Credit their quarterback, who they had Jalen Kitna playing before this. Credit their quarterback, Ryder Burton, too, 91.6 passing grade. So you talk about Burton and Hooks playing so well in this game. You play offense like that, you could beat anybody. They proved it against Memphis, and they really put a big plot twist in the American race here. I think Memphis, they're going to have to find a way to bounce back quick, and we'll have to keep an eye on Brendan Lewis's status next week too.
Definitely. All right, my last standout was another edge rusher, Cassius Howell from Texas A&M. 8 pressures and a quarterback hit on 31 pass rush snaps in A&M's very close win over Arkansas. Almost got upset there by A&M, but they survived. 26% pressure rate. He now has 32 pressures on the year, as 4th among all edge rushers in the Power 4. 8 sacks on the year, tied for 5th in the country. And I get it. He's got short arms, Dalton, but this guy looks like a first-round pick right now, the way he's playing.
Yeah, no, I mean, the measurables and all of that will be debated later, but you want this guy. Anytime, I don't care who it is, in the NFL, if you can rush the passer, you've got value, and Cassius Howell can do that. And I'll tell you, in that game, same game, you know a guy I just kind of feel bad for? It's Talon Green.
Yeah.
He plays his butt off every week, and Arkansas scores a boatload of points every week, and they just can't make stops when they really need them. Talon Green battles, man. I feel for those guys on that offense, especially because they lay it on the table every single week, and they just can't find enough stops to get wins.
Definitely. All right, that wraps up our standouts of the week. Let's quickly go over, because I don't want to talk about too much, the upset parlay that we had, Dalton. Before we, actually, no, let's do the top 25.
But either way, what you want, Eli? We can do either.
Well,
way.
I think Eli's pissed because you messed up the parlay once again, Dalton.
Yeah, I did. I this one I got nothing. I can't help if Sam Houston's top 2 quarterbacks get hurt in the same game. I just can't help that. I don't know at this point. I don't know what to do.
Eli hit his at plus 142. I hit mine at plus 210, and you missed yours.
I thought the Bearcat magic would work twice.
And the No Sunday Show parlay, by the way, went 3 for 9. So we had mine, Eli's, and we had a UConn over at Boston College. Good call by whoever was in the chat that called out UConn.
All right, yeah.
Everything else missed, though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Next one. Lock in on Tuesday. We'll have another Sunday Show parlay. We'll hit that one.
Do your research. We'll get it eventually.
But do your research, dude. You messed up the parlay once again, Dalton. All right, let's get to the top 25 right now. Wild top 25. At number 1, should not be surprised, though. Ohio State, number 1. Indiana moving up to number 2. So the program record number 3 ranking last week, new program record this week for Indiana at number 2. Texas A&M at number 3, Alabama at number 4, and Georgia at number 5. Let's go to the rest of the top 25 right now. At number 6, we got Oregon. 7, BYU moving up into the top 10. Georgia Tech moving up to the top 10 too, undefeated at number 8. Miami down to number 9. Ole Miss down to number 10. Oklahoma at 11. Vanderbilt at 12. Texas Tech moving down to 13. USF at 14. Missouri at 15. Got Notre Dame at 16. Virginia at 17. Louisville at 18, moving into the top 20 after being unranked. Number 19, we got Illinois. Number 20, we have Texas. 21, Michigan. 22, LSU. 23, Tulane. 24, Cincinnati. And 25, Arizona State. Anything stand out to you, Dalton, in that top 25?
Got some teams with some huge games. Next week, got some teams that just escaped, like Texas there at number 20. I think you got some 2-loss teams that are really on the brink. And then I find interesting, we're down to 6 undefeated teams with all the chaos left here. Your top 3 in Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, plus Georgia Tech, BYU, and Navy as the one undefeated.
Couldn't get him in the top 25 this week. But yeah, they're close. They're getting close.
Well, Arizona State deserved that, at least that last spot, if not higher, for that win that they went and got. I don't care what the margin was or how it went down. You beat that Texas Tech team. You did something right.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, that's going to be interesting. I saw Tulane in the ranking there. The end of that game against Army was wild early on yesterday. So the American race, despite the Memphis loss, is still going to be wild, and I'm curious to see how many of these teams are left standing undefeated at the end of it all. We've only got 6 of them left.
Yep. Yeah, we got a lot of really fun games coming up very, very soon. And, yeah, you mentioned only before, there's 6 undefeated teams left in college football as well. All right, Dalton, you want to go over the games that I don't think we've locked in all the games yet, but these are the games that we know we will be doing.
We've got 8. Tuesday. We've got 8 for a fact. There probably gets a 9th or a 10th worked in there, but it's another huge week in the SEC, Max. We've got Ole Miss and Oklahoma. Both of them have 1 loss. Ole Miss coming off a tight loss to Georgia, trying to bounce back. Oklahoma, not an easy defense to deal with. Oklahoma, Ole Miss is going to be big time. A&M and LSU, I'll tell you what, LSU season all of a sudden on the brink. And now you got undefeated Texas A&M coming to town to Death Valley. That's a huge game. Missouri-Vanderbilt, I know I've mentioned it a couple times on this show. What a ball game that's going to be. That the winner is going to be 7-1 and still prime in that playoff race. Alabama going to South Carolina. Obviously, South Carolina struggling. We'll see if Alabama can keep their momentum going and avoid a little bit of a letdown after a hot stretch against a lot of good teams. Out in the Big 12, undefeated still, BYU going to Iowa State. Huge game game for both those teams. Can BYU keep the momentum going? Can Iowa State avoid that third loss? Illinois and Washington in the Big Ten, what feels like kind of a playoff eliminator there. Houston, look at the Houston Cougars, 6-1 off a big win over Arizona. Can they beat the other team in Arizona with Arizona State there off a big win over Texas Tech? And then you know me, I've been looking forward to this one in the American Conference. Despite Memphis coming off a loss, still a good team. We'll see Brendan Lewis status, but the USF Bulls taking it up to Memphis, taking that show on the road. They've got 2 huge road games coming up against Memphis and in a few weeks against Navy. Those two games are going to decide USF's season here, and Memphis really needs to bounce back off this UAB loss.
They really do. So that won't be all of the games most likely, but we still have some more. But it is another great week in week 9 of college football. I want to thank you guys for watching this episode of the PFF College Football Show. Again, on Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time will be our Week 9 preview show. For our producers back there, and Tyler and Eli, for Dalton Wasserman, I'm Max Chadwick. This has been their Week 8 review show. Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time will be the Week 9 preview show. We'll see you guys then.